Chapter 261, First Training with the Yin Kingdom Team. It must be acknowledged that Ludo Bagman and Hamish McFarlane have shown remarkable responsibility and efficiency. Within a mere week, they managed to completely overhaul the Hogwarts Quidditch pitch, upgrading it to international competition standards. Additionally, the remaining 5 members of the Yin Kingdom national team had assembled in Hogsmeade. Consequently, on a bright Saturday afternoon, Ethan and Cyrilla embarked on their inaugural training session with the team. Upon their arrival at the Quidditch field, Ethan and Cyrilla were introduced to their new teammates. Avery Hawksworth, a chaser and the team's captain, was easily identifiable by his unkempt hair and commanding presence. Dawn Withy, a batsman with striking black hair, and Indira Choudhury, another batsman, who proudly bore the iconic red dot on her forehead, indicative of her Indian heritage. The team's goalkeeper, Dennis Frisbee, presented an imposing figure with his bald head and muscular build. Lastly, Bryce Parkin, the team's seeker, was notable for her brown hair and the distinctive silver Nimbus 2000 broomstick she wielded, a testament to her prestigious lineage from the renowned Parkin family, known for their significant contributions to Quidditch since the 15th century. The reception Ethan and Cyrilla received from their future teammates was mixed. Captain Avery, in particular, seemed visibly disappointed. As the Chaser duo's future partner, he had hoped for more formidable allies. The sentiment was echoed across the team. Despite not openly questioning Hamish's decision, there was a palpable sense of disillusionment at the choice of 2 young wizards to fill such critical roles. However, Ethan's natural charisma and Cyrilla's demeanor managed to warm the attitudes of the female team members, who welcomed them with open arms. Hamish wasted no time in outlining the day's agenda, a series of basic ability tests designed to gauge each player's skills. For Ethan, this meant undergoing a flight test, passing and shooting drills, and a dodgeball test, fundamental skills for any chaser. The flight test was particularly challenging. Hamish demonstrated the course by flying around Hogwarts, conjuring numerous rings of light that formed a complex track encompassing the field, the sky, and parts of the castle. The player's task was to navigate their brooms through these rings as swiftly as possible, with the added twist of being allowed to interfere with one another's flight. To ensure fairness, all participants, including Ethan and Bryce Parkin, were required to use the standard Nimbus 2000 brooms provided by the team, negating any advantage from personal brooms like Ethan's Firebolt or Bryce's modified Silver Nimbus 2000. Before the test commenced, Avery couldn't resist taunting Ethan, boasting about the prowess of a true professional player. Bryce Parkin, however, stepped in to ease the tension, reminding Avery not to intimidate the newcomer. Despite the underlying hostility from some of the more experienced players, Ethan stood his ground, ready to prove his worth and skill on the Quidditch field. Cherish the time when you can still say harsh things, Nico, because this is your last chance. What did you say about me? Avery was instantly angered by Ethan's remark and was about to confront him. However, Hamish's voice intervened. Everyone, take off! Avery, not daring to disobey Hamish's command, shot Ethan a fierce glare before mounting his broom and ascending into the air. 3, 2, 1, let's go! At the signal, the 7 broomsticks shot out from the starting line like arrows, tracing long white streaks across the sky. Ethan immediately recognized the gap between professional athletes and college team members. Their flying skills were exceptional, with even the goalkeeper Dennis showcasing remarkable ability. Among them, the most skilled flyer, Bryce Parkin, was naturally the seeker. His prowess in flight was unmatched, a trait typically seen in those who played his position. Captain Avery, not far behind in skill, was determined to intimidate Ethan right from the start. However, Hamish's command to begin the race thwarted his plan. Avery attempted to position himself in front of Ethan to dominate him with a display of professional prowess. Yet, he found his path blocked at every turn, unable to accelerate, and ultimately, he trailed behind in frustration. Unbeknownst to Avery, he wasn't dealing with an ordinary wizard, but a formidable opponent. Ruila, a female witch with extraordinary skills, had been enhanced by Ethan's attribute Elixir, transforming her into a force to be reckoned with. She maneuvered her broom with reckless abandon, executing sharp turns and rapid accelerations with ease. Ethan, though he hadn't used the strength and agility elixirs that most directly affected movement, had his own advantages. Blessed with the power of ox and elegance of cat, his flying was on par with Rila's. His psychic powers and a remarkable intelligence further elevated his flying skills, making him a formidable competitor. Avery was left in disbelief as he lagged behind from the start. Despite his efforts, the gap only widened, and by the time he reached the finish line, Ethan and Rila had been resting there for some time. However, Avery wasn't embarrassed. He recognized that the newcomers were exceptionally strong, a realization that even the seasoned seeker Bryce shared. The flight test was just the beginning. In subsequent tests, the newcomers' abilities were undeniable. Their physical prowess and spatial awareness were astounding, particularly Ethan's intuitive grasp of the quaffle. Blindfolded, he could catch passes from any direction. In the shooting test, their throws were swift and precise, rivaling the most experienced chasers. Their repertoire of tricks, including banana balls, leaf balls, and curveballs, left goalkeeper Dennis Frisbee questioning his abilities. The dodgeball test further showcased their exceptional reflexes and intuition, with Ethan's performance leaving spectators in awe. From the first day of training, the newcomers impressed their teammates, and their subsequent performances only solidified their reputation. Their skills, tactical understanding, physical endurance, and synergy were unparalleled, marking them as standout talents. In the annals of history, the prowess of chasers has often been distributed among many, yet in this instance, all such abilities were concentrated in just 2 individuals. Under Hamish's expert guidance, they unlocked their full potential. The team's once arrogant captain, Avery, had harbored aspirations of leading the team, especially with the arrival of new talent. He fancied himself the core scorer, but in the presence of Ethan and Cyrilla, he was relegated to the role of a blue-collar support player. Ludo Bagman, the director of the sports department who frequently attended the games, put it succinctly, "He is so strong that he seems to be playing in a league of his own." The Irish team, both a rival and a friend, was initially favored to win this year's championship. However, Hamish, bearing the weight of the Yin Kingdom team's long-standing championship drought and their inability to even make it to the finals, saw a glimmer of hope with Ethan and Cyrilla on his side. He believed that with their help, the championship could finally be within reach, and he envisioned himself as the hero who would lead the Yin Kingdom to victory. Chapter 262. More than a month has passed since Ethan and Cyrilla joined the Yin Kingdom Quidditch team. Hogwarts is on the brink of final exams, and the Quidditch World Cup is gearing up for the qualifiers. After a rigorous training session, Ludo Bagman burst in with electrifying news. This Sunday, the Yin Kingdom Quidditch team would face the Irish national team in their first game. Remarkably, this preliminary match was set to take place at Hogwarts, stirring excitement among the players. "What a great experience!" exclaimed Chaser Avery, flashing a bright smile. "How lucky we are!" Batter Don Withy chimed in, lifting his goggles in joy. Their prolonged training at Hogwarts had not only made them familiar with the environment, but also helped them forge strong bonds with the young wizards who frequently attended their sessions. Hogwarts had become their fortress, and playing on home ground filled them with confidence. "Luck also demands hard work," Coach Hamish interjected, clapping his hands to gather attention. Ludo Bagman paused, allowing the excitement to simmer down before explaining. "Professor Dumbledore approached me earlier, inquiring if the preliminary rounds could be hosted at Hogwarts. He believed it would enrich the students' lives and alleviate the stress of upcoming exams." Ludo, recalling Dumbledore's earnest request, admitted he would have made the same decision. Hosting the match at Hogwarts was a win-win. It offered students a break from their studies, allowed for the Quidditch pitch's renovation, and boosted Hogwarts' prestige. After several discussions and debates with the Department of Magical Sports and Games, we decided Hogwarts would be the venue for the preliminary round, Ludo announced, proudly thumping his chest. Ethan understood this gesture was meant for him and chose to accept the favor, regardless of Ludo's motives. In the context of the Quidditch World Cup, Ludo Bagman had indeed been a significant ally. Seeing the team's jubilant faces, almost celebrating prematurely, Hamish coughed twice to regain their attention. As the referee and team leader, he felt it necessary to temper their enthusiasm, reminding them not to underestimate their opponents. For Ireland, Hogwarts is also somewhat of a home ground. They're all Hogwarts alumni, familiar with the pitch from their school days. He cautioned, his words serving as a sobering reminder of the competition's intensity. Indeed, Hogwarts is the sole magical school in the British Isles, making it a common ground for all teams. Yet, the team had overlooked one crucial factor, their unique advantage in terms of home support. On Friday afternoon, the Irish Quidditch national team, donned in their light green robes and mounted on brand-new firebolts, made a grand entrance at Hogwarts. Their arrival was met with enthusiastic cheers from the students. Hogwarts was abuzz with excitement, with everyone eager to catch a glimpse of the Irish stars. Seamus Finnegan and Terry Boot, both of Irish descent, were especially keen, sharing detailed accounts of the Irish players' achievements. Despite the widespread support for the Yin Kingdom national team within the castle, the presence of the Irish team ignited a fervent curiosity and admiration among the students. As the two formidable teams prepared to clash, the anticipation reached a fever pitch, captivating the hearts of wizards and witches across the magical world. During these days leading up to the match, Ethan and Cyrilla were treated with unparalleled respect at Hogwarts. In the eyes of the young wizards, they represented not only their national team, but also the pride of Hogwarts itself, becoming the center of attention and the subject of countless conversations. In the castle, the anticipation for the upcoming Quidditch preliminary round was palpable, igniting the atmosphere like a blazing flame. Do you support the underworld or Ireland? This question became a frequent topic of discussion at Hogwarts, causing Harry a bit of distress. He naturally hoped for the underworld to win, especially since Ethan was a member of their team. However, he noticed that his friend Ron leaned more towards supporting Ireland, often engaging in heated debates with Terry, Seamus, and others. During such times, the air between Harry and Ron would grow tense. Unexpectedly, Ethan found that the individuals most welcoming towards him were the Slytherins, despite their past conflicts. After witnessing Ethan's capabilities, these cunning Slytherins quickly learned not to antagonize him. Their change in attitude was partly due to Ethan's formidable power and promising future. Additionally, Slytherins, who highly value honor, instinctively rallied behind Ethan when faced with external threats, seeing him as a representative of Hogwarts and the Underworld Kingdom. Eventually, they all received advice from their parents to forge a strong friendship with Ethan. Miss Jaina Proudmoore's standing in the Ministry of Magic was on the rise, her influence growing steadily. Even Percy from Gryffindor would make it a point to cheer for Ethan, apologizing for Ron's coldness and his support for Ireland. Time flew swiftly, and soon it was Sunday. As the young wizards arrived at the Quidditch field, they were astounded by the transformation. The stands, originally designed to hold students from the four houses, had been expanded overnight to accommodate thousands of spectators, including Quidditch enthusiasts, players' relatives and friends, and ticket-holding magicians from the ministry. At the entrance of the specially arranged spectators' passage, numerous wizards shouted eagerly, waiting to enter. The Quidditch field buzzed with life, the air thick with excitement and anticipation. Filch, with a stern expression, double-checked each wizard's ticket alongside a ministry official. First-class ticket. The wizard's demeanor turned respectful, his voice softening. Top box, please head straight up to the right. He guided them with enthusiasm. Thank you, Hope, Jaina Proudmoore said graciously, followed by Tonks and her parents, who were also invited to watch Ethan's game. Iwu, filled with excitement, was surprised to find that Onyxia, a member of the same race, was absent. They ascended the stairs, covered with purple-red carpets, to the top box, the crowd thinning as they dispersed to the stands on the left and right. Upon reaching the top, they were surprised to find two familiar faces. Ethan! Iwu joyfully leaped from Jaina's arms onto Ethan, who caught him with a resigned smile. Ethan, Cyrilla, what are you doing here? How did the coach allow this? You didn't sneak out, did you? Mrs. Tonks inquired with concern. Ethan scratched his head, looking sheepish. Mrs. Tonks's guess was spot on. After learning Jaina's box number the previous night, Ethan and Cyrilla quickly devised a plan. As soon as they saw Jaina and the others entering the stadium, they transformed into phoenixes and teleported to the box, arriving just a bit earlier. Feeling nervous before the game, Ethan found their company comforting. Their box soon became even livelier with the arrival of another guest. "Hi, Director Jaina," Ludo greeted. Bagman approached and enthusiastically waved at Jaina, Deputy Director. Iwu corrected him in a low voice. Upon noticing Ethan and Cirilla standing close to Jaina, Ludo's spirits lifted. He was now certain that his flattery had been directed appropriately. "Hi, Ludo. I'm glad you took care of them," Jaina said, taking the initiative to extend kindness. Ludo appeared thrilled by her words, feeling his efforts were acknowledged. Ethan observed that Jaina possessed the makings of an excellent politician, embodying qualities that allowed her to connect deeply with others. Unlike him, who relied on psychic powers for such connections, she did it effortlessly. "Mr. Green and Miss Leonlun are quite formidable. I wouldn't have opened the door for them otherwise," Ludo responded with a compliment. "You know, I was a player once. In that realm, I only respect results." His words painted him as a selfless individual, but regardless of his motives, his assistance was genuine. "Ludo, are you commentating today?" Jaina inquired in a conversational tone. "Absolutely. This is the first game of the World Cup, and it's being held at Hogwarts makes it particularly special," Ludo replied, settling into a chair. "However, the minister didn't seem to think so. He declined my invitation." "That's his loss. The games you commentate on are always exceptionally thrilling," Jaina responded with a smile. Her careful choice of words, even in a private setting, avoided endorsing Ludo's slight against Fudge, but still managed to make Ludo laugh with genuine joy. As more people arrived, Ethan checked the time and began to bid farewell to everyone. Before leaving, he noticed Jaina engaging in a warm handshake and conversation with Lucius Malfoy. Chapter 263. In the next half hour, the box where Gianna was seated gradually filled with people. One by one, guests approached Gianna to shake hands, and Tonks was by her side, greeting everyone with a warm smile, showing no signs of impatience. "I heard there's going to be a performance by the team mascots before the game, right?" Iwu suddenly turned to Ludo and asked with excitement. "Of course, you'll love it," Ludo responded with enthusiasm. Although he had never encountered a talking dragon before, he was eager to entertain Iwu, who was cradled in Gianna's arms. Each national team has brought their own unique animals from their countries. They'll put on a show before the game starts. I'm sure you'll find them as adorable as I do, Ludo added, glancing at his hand cards, his gaze wandering slightly. Suddenly, the director of the sports department stood up, scanning the room. Iwu, sensing the shift in atmosphere, closed his mouth and looked at Ludo with curiosity. Despite his odd attire, Iwu found him quite fascinating. "Is everyone ready?" Ludo announced, his round face beaming like a giant, spherical piece of cheese. At his words, the previously bustling box quieted down as everyone took their seats. Ludo then turned his attention to Ms. Jaina Proudmoore, the most esteemed guest in attendance. Jaina nodded at him, offering an encouraging smile. Ludo took out his wand, pointed it at his throat, and exclaimed, "Sonorous!" His voice boomed like thunder, resonating throughout the packed stadium. It echoed over the heads of the audience, reaching every corner of the stands. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 422nd Quidditch World Cup." The crowd erupted into cheers and applause. The stands were a sea of colors, with green waves representing the Irish team supporters, who donned green shamrock hats. Ron, Seamus, Terry, and other young wizards supporting Ireland wore these hats with joy. However, even more striking were the red and white waves, a sea of roses. Many young witches rallied behind the Yin Kingdom, preferring the elegance of red and white roses to green hats. The day turned into a carnival at Hogwarts, with the young wizards and witches dressed in their best, their excitement surpassing the intensity of the summer sun. Zhang Qiu stood out in a bright red cheongsam, adorned with golden peony patterns, the slits revealing her slender legs. Her black hair was styled into an elegant bun, topped with a delicate red peony, complementing her dress perfectly. Hermione opted for an elegant white hollow knee-length dress, her soft, curly hair cascading gently down her back. A delicate pink and white rose tucked behind her ear added a touch of grace. Penelo, dressed in a purple tube-top dress, had her long golden curls tied into a low ponytail, adorned with a violet flower, exuding the elegance of a noble princess. Zhang Chu, leaning on the fence, admired Hermione with confidence, like a gardener taking pride in her beautiful flowers. Hermione, sensing the gaze, looked up and met Zhang Chu's eyes. Zhang Chu smiled softly, complimenting, "You look even more beautiful today." Hermione turned to meet Zhang Chu's gaze, puzzled by the confidence Zhang Chu had shown in the past 2 months. At that moment, Luna arrived, her presence eliciting laughter wherever she went. Her wide skirt and low-necked corset accentuated her figure. Unlike the other young witches who wore a single rose, Luna was adorned with numerous roses, not on her head, but elegantly arranged around her collar, both large and small, adding to her charm. Stacked like a mountain, her collar stood high, reminiscent of a curly-haired lady, a fairy amidst a sea of roses. Luna, in her unique attire, was a stark contrast to the other young witches in their cool summer skirts. Unbothered by ridicule, she donned a colorful pair of anti-monster glasses, gently tapping the air as if warding off invisible nuisances. Hermione, caught off guard by Luna's appearance, momentarily forgot to respond to Zhang Chu. Both were rendered speechless by the sight. "Now," Ludo Bagman's voice boomed, "please raise your wands in the air and welcome the mascot of the Irish national team." "What is that?" Penelo asked, peering curiously at the field. "Big shiny ball," someone exclaimed. The crowd gasped in wonder, trying to discern the nature of the spectacle. A massive, gleaming clover ascended, hovering above the stands. Suddenly, it showered the spectators with what appeared to be golden raindrops, which, upon closer inspection, were actually gold coins. The audience erupted into cheers, scrambling to collect the falling treasure. Hermione, squinting for a better look, realized the clover was made of countless tiny figures in red vests and mustaches. "It's an Irish leprechaun!" she exclaimed, joining in the excitement. As the giant clover vanished, the leprechauns descended gracefully to their reserved seats on the field, sitting cross-legged. "I can't imagine anything more wonderful than gold coins," Ron said, clutching a large handful of them, beaming. "Indeed, nothing beats Ireland's mascot," Seamus added, pocketing his share of gold coins with satisfaction. "Without further ado, please allow me to introduce the mascot of the Yin Kingdom national team," Bagman announced, prompting a roar of cheers from the crowd. "I wonder what they've brought," Seamus mused, leaning forward in anticipation. His eyes widened in shock. "What is that?" 3 majestic creatures with fluttering wings entered the stadium. 3 fire dragons, 1 red and 2 white. The white dragons clutched bludgers in their mouths, while the red dragon carried the quaffle, embodying the Yin national team's emblem. "They actually brought fire dragons into the stadium," Terry exclaimed, eyes glued to the spectacle. "Aren't they worried about the dragons causing chaos or injuring people? Fire dragons are notoriously difficult to control." Seamus voiced his concern loudly. Ron nodded in agreement, mentally preparing to flee at any moment. However, the dragons seemed surprisingly docile, not showing any signs of their usual restlessness. They stretched their wings, changing formations gracefully. "Are they forming patterns?" Terry wondered aloud. "What does it say?" Ron scrutinized their movements, trying to decipher the message. "The flag of the Yin Kingdom," Seamus said, touching the 4-leaf clover on his head. "Honestly, for fire dragons to perform this well is miraculous. We should be grateful they're not causing any trouble. It's a divine gift." "Is that all?" Seamus asked, unimpressed. But the crowd's cheers grew louder. For years, the Yin Kingdom team's choice of fire dragons as their mascot had been seen as foolhardy. Their entrances were never without incident, often requiring the presence of 20 or 30 dragon trainers to manage potential mishaps. Despite rigorous training, the dragons' behavior was unpredictable in the noisy stadium, with various sounds easily agitating them. This made every World Cup a challenge for the Yin national team, necessitating extensive preparations to ensure safety and order. Money was spent more on dragon training and compensation than on the players themselves. After the episode, Hermione's eyes sparkled with excitement. She clapped her hands and exclaimed, "It's Miss Catrana Presto!" Penelo looked at Hermione, puzzled. "What does Miss Presto have to do with this?" Hermione, noticing Penelo's confusion, elaborated, "Miss Presto once lived in South America and helped Ethan and the others come to the Yin Kingdom after they completed their dragon-slaying mission. She's an expert on fire dragons. Ah, I see Miss Presto now, Penelo said, scanning the area until he spotted Onyxia, the red dragon, on the back of the red dragon. Exactly. I've always heard Ethan mention that she has a unique way with fire dragons, but I never imagined she could train them so effectively, Hermione mused. Ludo Bagman, the host, also lavished praise on Onyxia, or Miss Katrana Presto, now known as Director Presto. She had recently been promoted to the Department of Management and Control of Magical Creatures, specifically as the Office Director of the Beast Office, to assist the Yin Kingdom team in controlling their mascot. For the first time, the 3 fire dragons landed obediently in the rest area. This marked the Yin Kingdom team's first successful mascot performance. Previously, some superstitious fans believed the team's long-standing failure to win the championship, despite their strength, was due to their choice of mascot. However, witnessing the scene before them, many fans thought, this is a good sign. Chapter 264. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the Irish national Quidditch team. Bagman's voice boomed across the stadium. Introducing Connolly, Ryan, Troy, Mallet, Moran, Quigley, and Lin Chi. 7 green blurs soared towards the field. With the aid of a panoramic telescope, one could slow down their movements to clearly see Firebolt emblazoned on their broomsticks, and their names embroidered in silver thread on their backs. Now, please welcome the Yin Country Quidditch national team. Let me introduce to you Avery Hawksworth. Avery shot into the sky, waving enthusiastically to the crowd, who responded with warm cheers. Cyrilla Ray Allen, the next figure, clad in red and white, zoomed out. She flew so swiftly it was hard to catch a clear glimpse. Look, it's Cyrilla, the crowd exclaimed. She is our Ravenclaw senior. The young Ravenclaws cheered in unison. Cyrilla flew over each house's auditorium, waving gracefully, igniting another round of applause. Next, there's Ethan Green. Bagman's voice lingered on Ethan's name. However, instead of a figure on a broom, a creature with a lion's head, eagle wings, badger claws, and a snake's tail soared into the sky, its presence commanding. Over the years, Ethan's animagus form, the Chimera, had grown a magnificent mane, appearing more majestic than ever. The crowd's cheers intensified. It's Ethan. Ethan's animagus is a chimera. That symbolizes the unity of the 4 major houses, and Ethan is the pride of Hogwarts. The young wizards shouted, their excitement palpable. As the chimera roared spiritedly, the stadium erupted in enthusiasm. Even the Irish team's supporters found themselves caught up in the moment, shouting along. The atmosphere reached a fever pitch, leaving the Irish team in awe. They couldn't fathom how a young wizard could command such adoration. The notion of an away game disadvantage weighed heavily on them. High above, the chimera transformed back into Ethan, who plummeted towards the ground. The audience gasped in unison, the silence almost tangible. Then, responding to a summoning charm, a shining firebolt shot from the entrance. Ethan caught it midair, executed a neat flip, and mounted it, soaring upwards. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous, with Ethan receiving the loudest applause and cheers. Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. The Hogwarts students chanted his name, their voices a testament to their awe and pride. Dawn Withy, Indira Chaudhry, Dennis Frisbee, and finally, Bryce Parkin. Bryce, on her signature silver Nimbus 2000, entered the field to cheers rivaled only by those for Ethan. Just because you're good at acrobatics doesn't mean you'll win the competition. Ron, his face flushed with excitement, glanced at Harry, who was nearby. He clapped and shouted Ethan's name, then mused aloud, Ireland's defense and offense are among the best in the world. Mallet, Troy, and Moran are top chasers. Lynch is nearly as good as Parkin, if not as skilled as Crumb. I'm not sure Ethan and the team can win. Terry Boot added his analysis, his tone serious. Not just the audience, but also the Irish team, now hovering in the sky, discussed Ethan's prowess. This Ethan Green is very skilled. His broomstick maneuvering is impressive. But Quidditch is a 7-player game, after all. Individual skills are no match for teamwork. If we work together, score diligently, and defend robustly, I am confident that the final victory will undoubtedly be ours. Troy, the captain and chaser of the Irish team, motivated his team, receiving tacit nods of agreement from his players. He also took a moment to thank the day's referee, Arthur Rouse, a strong and capable wizard who confidently strode towards the arena with a silver whistle around his neck. As Arthur blew the whistle, the game officially commenced. "Ah, they're off," Bagman exclaimed. "Ethan Green has the ball. Cyrilla Avery? Pass it back to Cyrilla. Ethan Green." The young wizards at Hogwarts had never witnessed such an exhilarating Quidditch match. This month of Nation, all-team training was not only a period for Ethan and Cyrilla to integrate into the new team, but also for the team to gradually adapt to Ethan's strategies. Hamish, who had always admired the tactics used by Ravenclaw, was astounded after discussing them with Ethan. Thus, the strategies Ethan had gleaned from Muggle sports seamlessly integrated into the national team system. Facing the world's top teams, Ethan masterfully executed the run-and-gun tactics. The speed of the three chasers was astonishing. They flew and chased the ball relentlessly, passing it so swiftly that Bagman barely had time to announce their names. From the outset, the game was fiercely competitive, with both teams battling relentlessly. The roar of the crowd was deafening, yet Ethan remained composed amidst the chaos. He sensed the Irish team's focus on him, with a beater always in close proximity. Whenever he had the ball, two Irish chasers would double-team him, with bludgers being hurled his way. However, they overlooked Cyrilla, Ethan's adept partner. When Ethan once again took possession of the ball, he noticed the three Irish chasers, Troy, Mallet, and Moran, flying in close formation, with Troy at the center. "It's the Eaglehead offensive formation," Bagman announced. But Ethan didn't slow down. He charged towards the formation, seemingly eager for a head-on confrontation. Could it be that he's seeking a direct clash? "This is not a wise choice," Bagman lamented. To onlookers, the youthful Ethan appeared significantly smaller than the towering Irishman, and facing them one-on-three seemed like a sure path to defeat. Yet, Ethan's physical conditioning meant that any collision would likely be more detrimental to his opponents. However, Ethan had no intention of engaging in such a reckless maneuver. Seconds before the impending collision, he skillfully threw the quaffle upwards, simultaneously canceling his broom's lift and plummeting in a free fall. In an instant, both Ethan and the ball vanished from the Irish chaser's view. By the time the Irish team reacted, the quaffle had mysteriously ended up in Cyrilla's hands, rendering the Eaglehead formation ineffective. "Well done," Ludo Bagman exclaimed, his fist pumping in the air. Although moving in unison could effectively intercept an opponent, it also left the other chasers unmarked. Connolly's smile froze as he quickly pursued and aggressively directed a bludger towards Cyrilla. Unfazed, Cyrilla continued her flight towards the Irish goal. Irish beater Quigley intercepted, using his bat to deflect the missed bludger back towards Cyrilla. The Irish Quidditch players swiftly regrouped to defend. Ireland's chaser Lynch managed to block his path, staring intently. Cyrilla swiftly passed the quaffle, and Ethan, having just emerged from beneath, burst forward, and caught the ball. "Yingo team scores a goal. It's Ethan Green," Bagman roared with a loud voice, and the whole audience burst into cheers, making the stadium tremble. 10-0, the Yin team is in the lead. Everyone was stunned by the Yin team's performance. The Irish team, known for their regular scoring in Quidditch, unexpectedly fell behind by 1 point at the start. After Ethan scored, he circled the field, spinning his right hand by his ear, then waving to the audience. That action seemed to tell everyone, "Let me hear your cheers. Let me hear your cheers." Zhangchu, Hermione, and Penelo screamed excitedly and kept waving their arms. Even Luna held up a flag in support of Ethan. The three fire dragons all rose into the air again, and at the same time, they sprayed flames upward. Under the influence of magic, the flames from the red dragon were not orange, but a beautiful magenta, while the flames from the two white dragons turned white. The three dragon breaths, side by side, formed the pattern of the Yin Kingdom team. The Irish spectators finally got to know the two newcomers to the Yin Kingdom team. They had to admit that each of these two was a top-notch chaser, not to mention that their cooperation was perfect, and their movements were very coordinated. It was as if they could read each other's minds. They had met their match. As the competition intensified, the Irish players tried their best, but the score gap between them and the Yin Kingdom continued to widen. Who would have thought they would encounter such a trap? While the players were fiercely competing, the seekers from both sides were wandering around the field, looking for the golden snitch. At this moment, Bryce Parkin saw Ethan making a special gesture out of the corner of her eye. She knew very well that this gesture was a signal that the golden snitch had been spotted. In a month of training, she had fully understood the abilities of these two newcomers. As chasers, their flying and evading skills were superior to hers as a seeker. The most astonishing thing was Ethan's ability to locate the golden snitch. Whenever the golden snitch entered the field, he would find it within 3 minutes, without exception, and this efficiency far surpassed any seeker's. Hamish once considered asking Ethan to switch positions with her, but it was only after realizing that Ethan could play a greater role as a chaser that he abandoned the idea. However, Ethan, just like in Ravenclaw, took on the task of helping the seeker find the golden snitch. Parkin followed Ethan's prompts and quickly flew in the direction of the golden snitch. The 2.5 million spectators in the stadium obviously noticed this, and the entire stadium resounded with neat and loud cheers. Lynch, also paying attention to her movements, immediately flew in the direction of Parkin's flight, with Ireland's batsman Connolly following closely behind. Connolly's bludger flew through the air and went straight for Parkin's head. Parkin had to slow down and dodge, allowing Lynch to gain the upper hand. However, when Lynch tried to catch the snitch, Ethan appeared in front of him. Lynch was forced to slow down, and in just such a short moment, the golden snitch disappeared without a trace again. Ireland scores. Just when the Irish fans sighed, Bagman yelled. Although the fans were still disappointed, this was a small consolation. Lynch at least diverted the batsman's attention, which helped other teammates successfully break through and score. But immediately, their expressions changed. After getting the quaffle, goalkeeper Dennis made a long shot without hesitation and threw it towards the Irish half. The Irish team didn't have time to defend. Hope Rilla and Ethan, who had just intercepted Lynch, both appeared in the Irish half. It was Ethan's classic long pass and fast break. Irish goalkeeper Barry Ryan had to face the single-handed attacks of two chasers in an empty field. Without the ability to retaliate was thwarted, and the 10 points that had just been reclaimed were lost once more. Chapter 265. As time progressed, the Irish team's morale deteriorated significantly. They noticed that whenever Ethan found the golden snitch, the opposing team's beater would immediately intervene, blocking him with Lynch. The Irish team, traditionally relying on their scoring prowess, found themselves at a disadvantage against the newcomers from the Yin Kingdom team, resulting in an ever-widening score gap. Bryce Parkin of the Yin Kingdom team was having an exceptional day, his frequent sightings of the golden snitch leaving the Irish players in awe. Realizing they couldn't catch up through regular goals, the Irish team's only hope was to minimize the score difference and seize the opportunity to capture the golden snitch. However, each time the snitch appeared near their opponents, the Irish team could do nothing but watch as the Yin Kingdom team scored yet again, increasing their lead to 90 points. The situation looked grim for the Irish team, with the Yin Kingdom threatening to extend their lead beyond 160 points. It's about to break 100. Troy from the Irish team looked at his exhausted teammates, determined not to let the Yin Kingdom team succeed. Playing as the de facto visiting team, they felt immense pressure. Troy knew that if the point difference reached triple digits, their morale could collapse. With resolve in his eyes, he gripped the quaffle and charged towards the Yin Kingdom's goals with unprecedented speed. Dawn and Indira, the beaters for the Yin Kingdom, fiercely aimed the bludgers at Troy, attempting to halt his advance. Bagman's commentary echoed through the stadium, filled with tension, as Troy, with fearless determination, swung his bat and sent the quaffle towards the goal at a challenging angle. Despite the risk of injury, Troy was committed to securing these crucial 10 points for Ireland, hoping to reignite the team's passion and fighting spirit. Good shot. Oh, what a shame. Bagman's voice rose in disbelief. Just when it seemed the goal was certain, Ethan Green, with incredible foresight, intercepted the quaffle, sending it flying away from the goal. Cirilla quickly capitalized on this, making a swift pass and scoring after a rapid advance. Cirilla faces the goalkeeper again. Not only did Troy's desperate attempt fail, but he also fell to the ground, Bagman announced. The stadium, filled with tens of thousands of wizards, held its breath as they witnessed the dramatic turn of events. A powerful hit from Dawn struck Troy, causing him to lose balance and fall from his broom. As Troy plummeted towards the ground, he managed to reorient himself to protect his head, landing heavily. The stadium echoed with the sound of his fall, followed by the whistle signaling Sierra's goal. The contrasting fortunes of the two teams hinted at the challenges ahead. The crowd rose to their feet, with cheers erupting from the Yin Kingdom supporters, while sighs of disappointment filled the Irish section. "The game is suspended," Bagman announced, as medical personnel quickly attended to Troy on the field. Dawn, removing his goggles, looked in horror at Troy's leg, twisted in an unnatural position. He hadn't anticipated Troy's willingness to endure such a risk for 10 points. "He is fine and will be cured," Ethan reassured, flying beside the medical team. Despite the setbacks, the spirit of competition and determination remained unbroken, a testament to the players' commitment to their teams and the game. Dawn looked at Ethan with determination in her eyes. Thanks to the safety guard on the sidelines, who used shock absorption and speed stop in time when he fell, Troy did not suffer serious injuries. After receiving emergency treatment, he was able to return to the field. However, this did not mean that the injury had no impact on him. In fact, even the most inexperienced audience could see that Troy's performance had significantly declined after he resumed playing. Despite this, his sacrifice was not in vain. Although one of the key players of the Irish team was compromised, their subsequent act became more ferocious, reminiscent of a wounded wolf. Yet, Ethan was undaunted. Under his leadership, the Yingguo team remained composed. After implementing his tactics, he had replaced Captain Avery and had become the de facto commander. Facing an aggressive Ireland, Ethan opted for a strategic retreat, directing his players to tighten their formation. They employed zone and flexible defense strategies within their own half. After another 10 intense minutes, the Irish team managed to score 2 more goals. However, Yingguo also scored by leveraging long pass and fast break defensive counterattacks. This move effectively contained Ireland's aggressive offense, which clearly could not be sustained indefinitely. Once their momentum waned, the Yingguo team was ready to launch a full-scale counterattack. Another 10 minutes passed, and the fans of the Yingguo team began to cheer wildly. As anticipated, when the Irish offense faltered, Ethan led Yingguo in a vigorous counterattack. Now, with a 130-point lead, victory seemed within reach. The game escalated to unprecedented levels of ferocity and intensity. The beaters from both teams were relentless, especially Dawn and Connolly, who attacked the opposing players from all angles with fervor. Dawn, in particular, displayed extraordinary aggression. Despite her slender frame, she was like a fierce tigress in battle, charging at Moran, who was in possession of the quaffle, and successfully thwarting her. The quaffle was then swiftly captured by Cyrilla. Moran glared at Dawn, who simply turned away with indifference and flew off to cover Cyrilla, ensuring they avoided any collision. Seizing the moment, Cyrilla boldly navigated through the Irish defense, undeterred by the bludgers, and scored. The Yingguo supporters erupted into cheers, turning the spectator stands into a sea of roses. This score dealt a significant blow to Ireland, bringing them to the brink of defeat. When play resumed, the Irish chasers quickly mounted an offensive, displaying a desperate struggle for survival. Their efforts paid off when they scored a goal 2 minutes later, narrowing the score gap to 130 points. This demonstrated the unbroken spirit of the Irish team, eliciting a wave of cheers and jubilation from their fans. At that critical juncture, Bly Parkin caught Ethan's signal and soared into the sky, transforming into a silver shadow as she pursued the golden snitch. The Irish beaters, in a frenzy, launched 2 bludgers in her direction. Parkin skillfully dodged them, continuing her rapid chase. Just as Quigley, the Irish beater, exerted his full strength to send a bludger hurtling towards Parkin in a last-ditch effort to thwart her, Ethan intervened. Riding his firebolt, he positioned himself between Parkin and the bludger, showcasing his remarkable skill and bravery. Without dodging, Ethan was hit head-on by the bludger. The audience erupted in deafening exclamations. Zhang Chu covered his mouth as if envisioning himself on the field. Ethan's eyebrow appeared to have been damaged, and blood was flowing profusely. However, at the same moment, behind him, Parkin raised her right hand triumphantly. The golden snitch flapped its wings weakly, struggling feebly in the grasp of the Yin Kingdom's seeker. She caught it. Parkin caught it. Ethan Green once again played a key role, not just as an ace scorer, but as a protector of the seekers. The game is over. Yin Kingdom has won, Ludo Bagman announced excitedly. After trailing behind the Irish team by a significant margin, the Yin Kingdom team managed to capture the golden snitch first, bringing the game to a dramatic end. Update 5.4's. Add update. A new month has arrived, and I am reaching out for your support through customizations, flowers, monthly passes, comments, and rewards. If you have any passes, please consider giving them to me as the author. Your support is incredibly important to me. Chapter 266. The audience initially seemed unaware of the unfolding events. Then, gradually, like a jumbo jet gaining speed, the Yin national team's supporters' chatter grew louder and louder, eventually erupting into countless shouts of joy. The Yin Kingdom team won, Bagman exclaimed. With Ethan Green's distraction, the smallest player in the history of the Quidditch World Cup, Bryce Parkin of the Yin Kingdom, caught the golden snitch. Hermione waved her hands, completely abandoning her ladylike demeanor for the day. She jumped up and down, clapping and cheering. Her cheeks flushed red, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. She was deeply impressed by Ethan's performance. Ethan is amazing, but the Irish team's beaters were quite formidable. I was really worried about Ethan. He seemed to disregard his own safety. Zhang Chu, also cheering loudly, couldn't help but feel concerned recalling the moment Ethan was hit. You know, Zhang Chu, Ethan starts every morning by casting buff spells on himself. I still haven't figured out how many he uses daily. A bludger couldn't really harm him, Hermione said, calming down and analyzing the situation. Having received one-on-one training from Ethan, her understanding of his capabilities was unmatched. Rose petals fell from Luna's head, and her previously distant gaze regained its vitality, reflecting deep joy. She shed her dazed expression from watching the game and burst into a cheerful smile. Under Onyxia's command, the country's mascots, the fire dragons, soared over the field, exciting the audience further. Roses were waved throughout the stadium, and the Yin country's national anthem echoed from all corners. As the team members flew on their brooms, circling the field, roses rained down from the sky. The beautiful petals descended like heavenly flowers, covering the field in a dreamy romance. Supporters plucked roses from their attire, throwing them to their favorite players. Zhang Chu eagerly picked red peonies from her head, ready to throw them to Ethan as he flew by. However, when Ethan appeared in front of her, she became so nervous that she forgot her planned gesture, resorting to waving awkwardly instead. After Ethan completed his lap, the audience applauded and cheered, expressing their appreciation and respect. Amidst this warm atmosphere, Zhang Chu noticed Luna standing next to her, her neck bare, the roses that had adorned it now gone. Luna is so lucky and enviable, Zhang Chu sighed. What are you envious of? Hermione asked, puzzled. I saw Ethan catch the flowers she threw, Zhang Chu admitted, feeling a bit disappointed. Hermione's expression soured slightly. Like Zhang Chu and the other young witches, she had only a carefully selected rose in hand. When Ethan circled the field, they were all caught up in the excitement and forgot this crucial moment. However, Luna had brought a large bouquet of roses and, without hesitation, threw it into the air as Ethan passed. Zhang Chu watched helplessly as Ethan caught one and blew a kiss to Luna. This gesture prompted other young witches to throw their flowers at Ethan as well. However, Ethan merely responded with a smile, not catching any more flowers. The other young witches then turned their attention to other players. After that, Hermione and Zhang Chu reluctantly abandoned their plan to throw flowers. However, the way she dressed today was really something. Zhang Chu struggled to find the words to describe Luna's outfit. She found it hard to emulate Luna, who seemed indifferent to others' opinions and comments. Maybe she's smarter than we think. Hermione regarded Luna thoughtfully. Zhang Chu couldn't help but marvel at how unpredictable these academic prodigies could be. For instance, Cirilla, despite being a wizard, preferred to engage in combat with a sword. Penelo, who disliked fighting, was determined to become an auror. And then there was Luna, who always did the unexpected. Their actions might seem odd at times, but they often carried a deeper significance. Notice the dress she's wearing. The low-cut bodice and the raised rough collar are quintessential Elizabethan. During that era, the Yin Kingdom conquered all of Ireland, symbolizing the Yin Kingdom's victory, much like today's Kingdom team emerged as champions once again, Hermione observed, catching the symbolism in Luna's attire immediately. Wisdom is humanity's greatest treasure, Penelo commented, stepping forward with a smile that conveyed her admiration and recognition of Luna. At that moment, Jiang Chu caught Luna giving her a glance filled with an indescribable meaning before she walked away gracefully, as if she were attending a dance party. Ah, I remember now. When Luna was researching magical creatures, she borrowed my history book. She knew this history all along. I can't believe I only just realized it. Jiang Chu expressed, feeling a bit frustrated with her delayed realization. Compared to the jubilant atmosphere among the Yin Kingdom fans, the Irish supporters were as quiet as frostbitten seedlings. The little leprechauns looked sullen and dejected, like a wheat field after an autumn windstorm. I thought they played bravely, Terry remarked, his cheeks puffed out. He believed Ireland's chasers and batters were world-class, but Ethan and Cyrilla's performance was simply too dominant. Ron, lost in thought, fiddled with the gold coins in his pocket, letting them slip through his fingers. He struggled to find fault in Ethan's gameplay, but couldn't pinpoint anything. This realization only added to his discomfort. He had another reason to feel this way after today, Hermione's transformation. He was fortunate to see Hermione dressed up, and it dawned on him that his friend since the first year was actually quite attractive, a fact he had never noticed before. And all semester, he and Hermione had been arguing about Ethan, with this irritating guy named Ethan Green making things worse. At least, he thought, there were the gold coins. These naive young wizards were bound to be duped by the leprechaun gold. Meanwhile, in the Yin Kingdom team's locker room, the players celebrated their victory before starting to clean up. Sweaty and exhausted, only Ethan and Cyrilla remained. Ethan was carefully applying protective magic to a white rose in his hand, prompting Cyrilla to pout. You led the team to victory over Ireland and won over many fans. Which newcomer gave you that flower? It's not from a newcomer. It's Luna's flower, Ethan replied nonchalantly. Noticing Ethan's continued attention to the flower, Cyrilla huffed. Many people threw flowers at me today. Next time, I'll accept one. Ethan looked up to see Cyrilla sitting with her arms crossed and her back to him. He chuckled, stepped forward, and asked, Are you upset? Cyrilla turned her head away, ignoring him. However, Ethan's ability to sense emotions told him of her inner discontent. It was me first. I was the one who came first. It doesn't matter if we fight side by side, we have a close relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a victory in the World Cup. She felt a sense of betrayal, as if their shared efforts were being overshadowed by Ethan's flirtatious gesture towards Luna. Finding the situation amusing, Ethan sat down next to her, ready to smooth things over. To her, the sight of her body, drenched in sweat from the strenuous exercise, with her sportswear clinging to her form and highlighting a perfect silhouette, ignited a fire in Ethan's heart. Cyrilla, noticing Ethan's prolonged silence, turned her head in disappointment to see what this indifferent man was up to. To her surprise, Ethan suddenly lifted her up and headed towards the dressing room. Hey, what are you doing? I'm covered in sweat, she protested. It doesn't matter. This is the sweat of hard work and victory, the most precious, Ethan replied. For such a precious thing, I must first, Cyrilla exclaimed. Alas, you're abnormal. Immediately after, the dressing room was enveloped in soundproof magic. Cyrilla's budding jealousy transformed into a lament over her own powerlessness. Ethan had once again managed to quell the conflict among the girls, which was a relief. At Hogwarts, the professors would never consider canceling the midterm exams just because Ethan and his friends won the Quidditch World Cup. As the weather grew hotter, the anxiety among the students, especially those about to graduate, intensified. Exam week commenced, and the castle was shrouded in silence. On Monday, after the Transfiguration exam, the third-year students emerged exhausted and pale, comparing their scores and lamenting the difficulty of the exam. which included transforming a teapot into a turtle. Hermione's complaint that her turtle looked too much like a turtle sparked envy among her peers, who saw it as boasting from a top student. In the charms exam, Professor Flitwick tested them on the cheering charm, which, in Ethan's Book of All Laws, fell under the charm control system. This magic was particularly easy for Ethan, who had a knack for mind charm control. He didn't even need to recite the spell. A simple snap of his fingers had the entire classroom, including the waiting students, bursting into laughter, nearly causing some to fail. Professor Flitwick's expression made it clear that Ethan would receive an O grade for this subject. The next morning, Hagrid conducted the Care of Magical Creatures exam. With Ethan's assistance, Hagrid's teaching had been a success, and he set a challenging final exam involving the relocation of a bowtruckle's tree without provoking its aggression. While some students resorted to burning the tree, thus failing, Ethan, having become a druid, found no difficulty in this task, as the bowtruckles were practically tame under his care. In the afternoon, they faced the potions exam. Despite Snape's notoriously difficult questions, they posed no challenge for Ethan, a master capable of refining and modifying permanent elixir formulas at will. Snape, overseeing the exam, didn't even bother to check on Ethan's work. The exams continued with astronomy, history of magic, arithmancy, and herbology. The most intriguing was the Defense Against the Dark Arts exam, an outdoor obstacle course under the sun. Students had to navigate through various challenges, including crossing a Grindylow-infested pond, maneuvering through redcap-filled potholes, traversing a bog, ignoring misleading directions from a hinky-punk, and engaging in a new battle with a boggart in an old box. These exams, while challenging, inevitably led to some amusing incidents. During the exam, when Hermione finished, Ethan noticed her expression was unusually flustered. "What did you see in the last level?" Ethan asked curiously. Hermione had never mentioned to him what form her boggart would take. Catching her breath, Hermione replied, "It's Professor McGonagall. She said I failed all my exams." Chapter 267, Ethan's choice of the name Genius Club. Ethan's decision to name the group surrounding him the Genius Club was truly inspired. After they all consumed the permanent elixir he provided, the intelligence and perception of Cyrilla, Hermione, Jiangchu, Penelo, and Luna were significantly enhanced. They were already exceptionally bright individuals, but the elixir allowed them to surpass their natural abilities. Even Jiangchu, who had average talent, and Luna, who leaned towards science, outpaced their peers. The elixir's miraculous power enabled them to transcend the limits of human intelligence. Ordinary individuals could become top students, while top students could ascend to academic deity status, and those already at the pinnacle could reach even greater heights. With thorough preparation, they effortlessly navigated their exams, showcasing their remarkable talents. The young wizards in the Polyscientific Society were amazed to discover that the content covered in their exams had been reviewed in the Society's tutorial classes. While their results might not have matched those of Cyrilla and the others who took the permanent elixir, they still significantly outperformed their peers who hadn't joined the Erudite Society, achieving numerous O ratings. Some even managed to secure 12 O's in the Obuel's examination. After completing all her subjects, a weary Hermione thought she could finally rest. However, the arrival of a divination exam notice caught her off guard. She had thought she had dropped this course, having missed the last few classes. Despite her disinterest in divination, Hermione was determined to excel in every exam. Learning that Penelope Clivat had achieved all O ratings in the NEWTs spurred her competitive spirit. As Penelope's rival in the Erudite Society, Hermione aimed to match or surpass her in every way. The thought of receiving a poor grade, or worse, failing, was unbearable. With the exam approaching, Hermione frantically studied Peer into the Mist and See the Future, focusing on the chapter about the crystal ball, though she was filled with doubt. "Professor Trelawney doesn't like me," she thought, frustrated. "I've never seen anything in a crystal ball." In distress, she tugged at her hair. As she ascended the spiral silver staircase, her mind was consumed with crystal ball knowledge points. Ethan, concerned about her state, accompanied her to the classroom door. Before she entered, Ethan suggested, "Divination is inherently mysterious. There's no standard answer. If you're stuck, just make up a prediction about your own experiences, and you'll pass. Professor Trelawney might even appreciate a prophecy of misfortune. Thank you, Ethan, but I can't lie for grades, Hermione replied, shaking her head. I'd rather fail than take the easy way out. Many might view this stance as foolish, but to Ethan it was part of Hermione's unique appeal. All right, Hermione, do as you see fit, Ethan said, embracing her comfortingly. Your integrity is what I admire most about you. Don't stress. Even if you fail divination, you're still the brightest witch in my eyes. If it doesn't work out, I'll teach you more accurate prediction spells over the summer, he offered. Hermione nodded, her spirits lifted. Hermione Granger, called a familiar, dreamy voice from above. Composing herself, Hermione bid Ethan farewell and stepped confidently onto the stage, under Ethan's admiring gaze. The girl's back radiated determination and courage, as though she was prepared to face death itself. Yet it was merely an exam. The room at the top of the tower was stiflingly hot. Despite it being summer, the curtains were drawn shut. The flames in the fireplace emitted their usual smoky scent, further thickening the already heavy air. Hermione found herself covering her mouth and nose, attempting to filter the irritating aroma. She navigated through the clutter of tables and chairs, making her way towards Professor Trelawney, who was seated before a massive crystal ball. Good evening, Granger, Profe. Sore Trelawney greeted, her voice soft but laced with an almost imperceptible chill. Please look into this crystal ball, take your time, and tell me what you see. Although I don't see a halo above your head, you might as well give it a try. Hermione leaned in, her gaze fixed on the crystal ball. Inside, a white mist swirled, obscuring her view with its foggy veil. She concentrated, trying to discern any patterns or shadows within. Gradually, two figures emerged, embracing each other in a tight, graceful dance. And? What do you see? Professor Trelawney inquired softly, urgency tinting her voice. I see two people, Hermione said, not taking her eyes off the crystal ball. They seem to be dancing. Dancing? Are you certain? Professor Trelawney pressed. Yes, just dancing, Hermione confirmed, trusting her judgment. Professor Trelawney examined the top of Hermione's head once more before standing and approaching the crystal ball. She adjusted its orientation slightly and peered into it intently. After a moment, she faced Hermione, her expression complex. I owe you an apology, Granger, she admitted softly. I was too hasty in my judgment. To perceive such a scene in such a brief time demonstrates remarkable talent. I now see your aura. You indeed possess a gift for divination. Please do not squander this gift. Hermione was taken aback. Had she truly just heard Professor Trelawney affirm her talent, rather than question it? The memory of her first divination lesson, which had left a lasting impression, made it hard for her to believe. She hadn't realized that she was no longer the same person. The elixir she had taken not only enhanced her intelligence, but also her perception, which included not just the five senses, but a sixth sense as well. This encompassed divine insight, an attunement to the forces of nature, and foresight. How could she not possess the gift of prophecy now? Hermione looked up, eager to catch Professor Trelawney's expression. She noticed Professor Trelawney marking an O behind her name, a sign of outstanding performance. Relieved, Hermione stood, bowed respectfully, gathered her school bag, and turned to leave. However, a loud, harsh voice stopped her in her tracks. Soon, Hermione spun around to see Professor Trelawney sitting bolt upright in her chair, her eyes vacant and mouth agape. Hermione covered her mouth, careful not to disturb the professor. Professor Trelawney's eyes whirled wildly as a voice, vastly different from her usual tone, emanated from her throat. The Dark Lord, lying in solitude, forsaken by his followers, his servant who had been imprisoned and tortured for 12 years. This servant will break free and seek out his master. With his servant's aid, the Dark Lord will rise again, stronger and more formidable than ever. More terrifying than before, Professor Trelawney dropped her head to her chest, emitting a vague sound. Then, suddenly, she raised her head again. I'm sorry, my dear child, she said drowsily. It was so hot, you know. I may have taken a nap. Hermione looked at her in horror. Is something wrong, dear? You just told me that the Dark Lord is going to make a comeback, and that his servants are going to return to him. That Professor Trelawney looked shocked. The Dark Lord? The person whose name I dare not even mention? My dear boy, that's no joke, a comeback, oh my God. But this is what you just said. You mean the Dark Lord. I think you must have fallen asleep too, my dear. Professor Trelawney said, I certainly can't predict something so outrageous. Hermione descended the ladder and spiral staircase in a daze, the words she had just heard echoing in her mind, along with Ethan's comments about Trelawney. She really has a talent for divination, but this talent cannot be taught to others. She felt that she might have just heard Professor Trelawney make a real prophecy. If that was true, Hermione's heart couldn't help but sink. The joy of getting an O in divination class had been forgotten. If the rise of T, he Dark Lord, was destined, then what could someone as small as her do? Hermione thought of Jaina and the others who were waiting in the Ministry of Magic and of the Erudite Society. When she saw Ethan again, the girl threw herself feebly into his arms. Chapter 268. In the midst of a scorching summer, the Boshu Society's final event arrived as scheduled. Despite the blistering heat outside, the interior was transformed into a refreshing ice cellar, thanks to the constant temperature technique, offering a much-needed respite from the heat. The long table was laden with an array of chilled beverages, frothy butterbeer, tangy sherry juice, and invigorating sherbet, all exuding a cold, enticing aura. The pastries, ranging from blueberry shortcakes and raisin scones to cinnamon sugar bread, apple pies, strawberry cheesecakes, caramel banana tarts, and butter cookies, were displayed like edible works of art, each more tempting than the last. Padma Patil, savoring a raisin scone with elegance, expressed her satisfaction. I've noticed that everyone who participated in the society performed exceptionally well in the exams. I passed every subject. Steve, with a look of surprise, showcased his report card. I even passed my herbal medicine class. This isn't surprising at all. Hermione went out of her way to highlight key points and even shared her notes with us, significantly aiding our studies, Padma replied, her voice filled with gratitude. Attention shifted to Ethan, who was ascending the podium. Everyone, please, quiet down. Ethan's voice resonated through the room. Firstly, I want to congratulate everyone on their outstanding performance in the final exams. Ethan began with a smile. It's clear that our efforts in the Broad Knowledge Society have been both necessary and beneficial. Nods of agreement came from the young wizards below. To further foster communication among us and to assist each other post-graduation, we're planning a summer gathering. He paused, then continued. We will also distribute badges of the Erudite Society, serving both as a symbol of our society and as a reminder of our connection. With a wave of his hand, Ethan released badges from a small bag, which flew and landed in front of each young wizard present. Crafted from metal, adorned with gold and silver, and featuring an exquisite wisdom emblem, the badges were met with cheers. These badges were not just symbols of honor, they represented a strong bond within the Erudite Society. Organized by Ethan, the society not only facilitated knowledge and skill acquisition, but also strengthened friendships and communication among classmates. The anticipation for the summer activities was high, promising a time of freedom and fun, contrasting the somber mood surrounding the training organization. Meanwhile, Harry Potter was grappling with a heavy heart. Professor Lupin had submitted his resignation to Principal Dumbledore, ostensibly to assist Sirius with the Black family business. However, this was not the sole reason. Concerned about the curse associated with his position and the overt malice from Snape, Lupin feared the repercussions of continuing. Snape's insinuations about his werewolf condition when he was a substitute teacher hinted at the possibility of more direct actions if Lupin remained in ignorance. Harry's sorrow was not just about Lupin's departure, but also the disappointment of not being able to live with Sirius. He couldn't fathom why Dumbledore opposed their cohabitation, or why Sirius so readily acquiesced to this seemingly unreasonable demand. Harry had once naively envisioned a future with Sirius, his parents' best friend, an irreplaceable figure in his heart. Yet, this hope now seemed to dissipate into thin air. The thought of returning to the Dursleys weighed heavily on Harry, a burden that felt suffocating. As Hogwarts Quidditch season approached, Harry's challenges seemed to mount, leaving him to navigate the complexities of his emotions and the realities of his world. As the express pulled out of the station in the early morning light, the young wizards of Ravenclaw were brimming with enthusiasm. This year, their house had excelled in the Quidditch Cup and the Daily House Cup, proudly defending their title as the College Cup champions for 3 consecutive years. The auditorium was still adorned in blue and bronze. The train gradually approached the familiar King's Cross station. Ethan and Cyrilla, along with Hermione and Jiang Chu, bid farewell to their friends before passing through the magical barrier of Platform 9 and 3/4. There, they were greeted by the sight of Sirius Black, his eyes filled with a mix of nostalgia and helplessness. Ethan approached Sirius without hesitation, and Sirius, spotting him, waved excitedly and walked over. "It's so nice to meet you, Ethan," Sirius exclaimed, enveloping Ethan in a warm hug. "Congratulations, Ethan. Oh, and you, Miss Leanne, congratulations on defeating the Irish team. It's a shame I couldn't watch it live. It must have been a fantastic game." "It's been a while, Sirius," Ethan replied with a smile, showing consideration. "Don't worry about me. Go and greet your godson. He's eager to see you. By the way, I have something to tell you later." "Of course, Ethan," Sirius responded, releasing Ethan and moving forward with determination to embrace Harry, who was struggling with a large suitcase. Their reunion was heartfelt until Sirius whispered a few words to Harry, who then obediently left, pushing his suitcase and Hedwig's cage on a cart towards Uncle Vernon. Ethan waited patiently with a smile. "Ethan, how can I assist you?" Sirius asked, standing before Ethan with a curious look. "I've heard some things from Hermione and felt it was unfair for you and Harry. I wanted to offer a suggestion," Ethan said, his voice filled with sincerity and concern. Sirius, though initially confused, trusted Ethan, the first person in many years to extend kindness to him. "I understand Dumbledore's reluctance to let Harry live with you. Perhaps he's too caught up in his plans and overlooks your feelings. However," Ethan paused, noticing Sirius's eyes light up with hope. Ethan chuckled and straightforwardly offered his suggestion. "Sirius, consider finding a place to live near Vernon's house. This way, you can spend the daytime together, and Harry only needs to return to his aunt's house at night. If you reveal your true identity to Harry's aunt and uncle, I believe they will accept you." Sirius's doubts vanished, replaced by a bright smile. "Thank you, Ethan. This is a great help. Why didn't we think of this simple solution? Perhaps you should consider whether there's a better way before blindly following others' opinions. I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just reminding you not to rely too much on others. After all, we are the masters of our destinies," Ethan pointed out, highlighting an uncomfortable truth. As for Dumbledore, he seems to prioritize what he deems important, often neglecting what he considers trivial. With that, Ethan smiled freely, picked up his luggage, and said no more. Sirius, though not doubting Dumbledore's decisions based on Ethan's words, harbored some dissatisfaction. After bidding Ethan farewell, Sirius turned and walked towards Harry. Meanwhile, Uncle Vernon was berating Harry in his usual stern manner. "What are you waiting for? Do you know how precious my time is?" he snapped, his eyes sharp as an eagle's. "My godfather," Harry replied proudly. "Godfather?" Uncle Vernon questioned skeptically. "You don't have a godfather." "I am Harry's godfather, Vernon," Sirius interjected, his eyes flashing dangerously. "Ethan was convicted of murder 13 years ago and was only recently released from prison. He plans to buy a house on Privet Drive. This holiday, I will meet Harry often. I hope it's convenient for you," he said. Uncle Vernon's face contorted in horror upon hearing this, but Harry sensed that this summer vacation might not be as dreadful as he had anticipated. He glanced in the direction Ethan had gone, offering silent respect to the man before turning to enter Hogwarts. His friends expressed their gratitude for the friendships they had formed. Then, with Sirius by his side and Hedwig cooing contentedly in front, Harry walked towards the exit. "Ethan!" A familiar voice halted him. It was Lucius Malfoy and his son. Lucius's neatly combed blonde hair gleamed in the sunlight as he approached Ethan with Draco in tow. "Hello, Mr. Green." Lucius extended his hand, which Ethan shook promptly. "Hello, Mr. Malfoy," Ethan replied, his smile polite. He tactfully ignored their past conflict over the diary, and the moment Lucius had knelt before him, begging for mercy. Now was not the time to dredge up old grievances. "This summer, a banquet will be held at Malfoy Manor. Here is your invitation," Lucius said, presenting Ethan with an elegantly designed invitation adorned with a gold border and a peacock motif. Please, extend this invitation to Director Jaina Proudmoore as well. I've heard you two refer to each other as siblings. My son has spoken highly of you in his letters this year. We sincerely hope you can attend. Ethan accepted the invitation graciously. Thank you, Mr. Malfoy. I will make sure to pass it on. We look forward to visiting. Lucius nodded in acknowledgement, while Draco appeared somewhat sheepish, likely embarrassed by his father's revelation of his private correspondence. After exchanging farewells, the Malfoys departed from the station, leaving Ethan to reflect on the unexpected turn of events. Chapter 269. After leaving the station, Ethan and Cirilla activated the mansion technique and returned to their familiar home. Jaina, Tonks, Onyxia, and others had already arrived at the tower, having carefully prepared a table of mouth-watering delicacies. Since obtaining the intellectual mark, Ethan's tower had become a common residence for everyone. They spent most of their time here, after work, treating it as their new home. Perhaps because of the frequent gatherings in the tower, when everyone got together again, there was no excitement and joy of reunion after a long absence, but instead, a sense of family warmth enveloped them. At the dinner table, Ethan proposed the idea of hosting a polymath summer party, and Jaina immediately supported the idea with enthusiasm. We can use Oni's manor, which is large, has enough space, and boasts beautiful scenery. More importantly, banquets are often held there, making it the perfect venue, Jaina suggested, helping Ethan refine his idea. Why does this always happen to me? Onyxia muttered, slightly confused before reluctantly agreeing. Okay, if you say requisition, then requisition. You always know how to take advantage of me. It's obvious that your manor was built with all my money, Ethan pointed out sharply. But I also invested a lot of galleons myself, Onyxia retorted angrily. Really? Ethan asked Jaina, puzzled. Does this spendthrift dragon actually have money to spare? The Black Dragon Princess bristled at this. What is that look in your eyes? What do you mean, spendthrift dragon? But Ethan ignored her and simply looked at Jaina for confirmation. She's right, Princess Coltira spoke up for her. Oni has indeed earned a lot of galleons recently. It's not from selling blood, is it? Ethan asked suspiciously. Her blood is all my personal property. How come my blood is your property? The female black dragon was both anxious and angry. I'm not Aiwu. Aiwu is a good little dragon, Stinky Oni is a bad dragon, and Stinky Oni is not Aiwu. Xiaolong said angrily. The bigger the cover, the badder the dragon. Aiwu, we won't play with the bad dragon. Ethan casually took Aiwu into his arms and stroked her for a while, then turned to Onyxia. And you, don't say your blood is mine. Your entire being is my property. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Onyxia did not refute but turned her head so that no one could see her blushing face. She didn't understand why she, who had manipulated countless aristocratic politicians to her will, was so easily flustered and showed such an innocent side in front of him, as if she were a teenager. At this time, Tonks also spoke up for her. Don't be too hard on her, brother Ethan. Oni has indeed been a lot more diligent recently. She travels around the world to dragon farms and can't make much money just by training dragons. Then, she quietly revealed, You don't know, just for the game between you and the Irish team, Oni earned 4,000 galleons from the mascot performance. 4,000 galleons! Cirilla was shocked. She hadn't expected that the pre-game performance of their team's mascot would be so lucrative. The Quidditch World Cup finals used a single elimination system, with a total of 16 teams. If their team could advance to the finals, in theory, there would be 3 more games. Each advancement would bring more attention to the games. How did you negotiate and charge per performance? She asked curiously. Others also looked at Onyxia, eager to know how much more she could earn. How could I not? Onyxia said with a proud expression. I signed a progressive agreement. The more important the game, the higher the price. For example, in the knockout rounds of the World Cup, every time you advance further, your offer will double. With this, she looked at Ethan and Cirilla, showing the dragon's unique greed. So you guys work hard and try to reach the finals so that I can earn 63,000 galleons. It took me a long time to make money for you, Ethan said, both amused and annoyed. Ethan paused but still acknowledged Onyxia. Good job this time. Hearing her master's praise, the Black Dragon Princess was not only unhappy, but also showed a vigilant expression. What are you doing? You don't think you can take away all the money just by praising me, do you? I tell you, don't even think about it. Looking into Ethan's calm eyes and recalling her experience of turning into a cat, Onyxia shrank back, her tone becoming much weaker. At most. A quarter at most. No, half. I'll give you half at most. No more. There's still half of it? What a surprise. I was only prepared to take a third of it at first, Ethan smiled. Hateful. Onyxia slapped her thigh in frustration, causing everyone to burst into laughter. In short, the meeting of the Erotic Society is scheduled to be held at your place. Ethan made the final decision, then glanced at everyone present. You all should come to the party, just to increase your presence among them, and also to get to know your future subordinates in advance. Brother Ethan's advice is great, but I won't stay there forever, Gianna added. I'm much older than you guys. Not everyone is like you, precocious. When speaking of this word, Gianna's cheeks turned red. If I'm here, they will feel restrained, so I just go and look around. Then she looked at Tonks. Nymphadora, you are relatively close in age to them, so I leave it to you to pick out the materials that can be made. Okay, Chief Proudmoore. The female Auror bowed in a mocking manner, causing another round of laughter. By the way, in the future, when the Bashu Society holds gatherings, it can be held in my manor. Onyxia thought for a moment and said proactively, but I have a share in choosing people. Next, Ethan, Jaina, and Onyxia studied the details of the banquet for a long time. Then they immediately started making invitations and sent the owls at home to deliver these letters one by one. Ethan also obtained the communication badge and revealed the time and place of the party to them respectively. Ethan's holiday life was not as leisurely and comfortable as other young wizards. He not only needed to continue to complete the Book of All Laws, but also participate in Quidditch training. Fortunately, the Book of All Laws had now been completed in 4 parts, which was enough for most people who needed to learn the magic within it. For the 5th and 6th levels, he was preparing to update the Buddhist system. As for the 7th level, he could only use 7th level spells at most now, so he had to save a hand. These were all the same before his wizard level had a breakthrough. Now, he started to put his interest in another magical creation, that is, the golem. This idea came up after designing the Auror uniform. Since manpower in the wizarding world was so precious, why not use golems extensively to assist in completing tasks? Chapter 270. Considering the upcoming Death Eater rebellion, Ethan planned to design a golem to assist in combat for the Aurors, specifically those under Tonks's command. In the Harry Potter world, golem-like creations are not uncommon. The statues and knight armors in Hogwarts Castle, for instance, are enchanted to serve as a defensive force when necessary. However, their combat effectiveness does not surpass that of a real knight in armor. Another example is wizard chess, where the pieces come to life and battle on the chessboard. Ethan wondered if these chess pieces, if enlarged to human size, could possess significant combat effectiveness. Recalling his first year, Ethan remembered Professor McGonagall's giant wizard chessboard. While visually impressive, the chess pieces were fragile and could be easily destroyed by a simple crushing curse. Such magical creations, therefore, were inadequate for wizard battles. The golems Ethan envisioned were more akin to those in the D&D world or the arcane constructs in WoW, tall, sturdy, with magic resistance, and capable of sustaining magic damage. They would serve as both cannon fodder and protective shields for wizards. To create such golems, a number of arcane spells would be necessary. Activated Objects, a 6th-level transmutation spell that grants mobility and a semblance of life to inanimate objects. Command, a 6th-level enchantment spell that allows the caster to issue magical commands to a creature, directing it to perform services or prohibiting certain actions. Anti-Magic Field, a 6th-level abjuration spell that creates an invisible barrier impervious to most magical effects, also preventing the operation of magic items and spells within its area. Resurrection, a 7th-level necromancy spell capable of restoring life to any dead creature, fully rejuvenating its power regardless of the condition of the body, as long as a part remains. These spells would grant the golem mobility, the ability to follow instructions, resistance to magic, and the capacity for self-repair. Additional spells for shaping materials and enhancing craftsmanship, such as various transmutation spells and techniques for converting substances, would also be essential. The most challenging aspect of creating a golem was imbuing it with intelligence. Ethan concluded that a living spirit must serve as the golem's core to endow it with a soul. In the D&D world, this is often achieved by summoning a high-level earth elemental from the elemental plane, binding its soul to an artificial body to grant it higher intelligence. However, the Harry Potter universe lacks an elemental plane, and the elemental beings Ethan and Jaina could summon possessed only basic wisdom, akin to a golem with merely the activated object spell applied. As an alternative, Ethan considered using wild soul essences. Unfortunately, the text cuts off here, leaving the reader to ponder the potential and challenges of creating such a golem in the Harry Potter universe. Ethan only had 3 soul fragments in his possession, all obtained from dismantling Voldemort's Horcruxes. These were insufficient for even a single golem. If Ethan had only aimed to create a basic string puppet that could move upon command, like the wooden golem he utilized as a training dummy, he wouldn't have needed to ponder much. However, Ethan envisioned a golem that could actively assist a wizard in combat. Such a golem required a significant degree of autonomous initiative. Consequently, Ethan, who had previously neglected the study of soul magic, began to contemplate how to acquire more souls. Upon reflection, the acquisition of souls seemed not so daunting. After all, the world has never been short of the deceased. Take, for instance, Rwanda in 1994. Ethan took leave from his team, bid farewell to his colleagues, and traveled to Rwanda, keeping his destination a secret. He stayed there alone for a week. Upon his return, Ethan's demeanor had changed dramatically. He exuded an aura reminiscent of a necromancer, chilling those within a 5-meter radius. Iwu burst into tears upon approaching him. For the following 3 days, Xiaolong refused to leave Ethan's side, even ignoring Luna's visits, preferring to weep daily rather than be apart from Ethan. In her view, it was crucial to prevent Ethan from being consumed by those dreadful emotions. Despite the concerns, Ethan remained unaffected by any harsh emotions. His journey to Rwanda significantly enhanced his abilities, elevating his soul control, expertise to soul spellization. From that point forward, Ethan rarely faced a shortage of soul stones for his golem creations. Using soul stones to imbue golems with a semblance of spirit did not entail transferring the soul's consciousness and memories into the golem. However, employing the souls of ordinary people had its limitations. It was insufficient for creating advanced golems capable of complete independence, human-like task management, and spellcasting akin to wizards. For such sophisticated constructs, the soul of a wizard, inherently more magical and spiritual, was necessary. Ethan desired to craft a few construct maids for personal chores, dismissing the option of employing house elves due to his ugly rejection of the idea. Acquiring a wizard's soul proved challenging due to the small wizarding population and the myriad of detection methods for the deceased. Ethan, not one to take lives lightly, had to be patient. Relying on the accidental death of a wizard was equally unreliable. However, the Quidditch World Cup final presented a legitimate opportunity to gather souls, with the incoming Death Eaters serving as the perfect resource for his future construct maids. To assist the Aurors in combat, Ethan also committed to designing several golems. Leveraging ancient magic inherited from a secret chamber and arcane spells for golem creation, Ethan swiftly produced the first batch, steel golems. These golems, resembling armored knights from Dark Souls brought to life, were equipped with full-body armor, magic swords, and defensive shields, lacking nothing essential. Ethan opted for a magical aesthetic over a modern armored warrior or power armor design, considering the wizard's classical aesthetics. He enchanted the armor with a secondary anti-magic field to resist limited spells, while the shield received a stronger anti-magic field enchantment. This approach not only reduced production costs, but also ensured the golems were not overly resistant to powerful spells, striking a balance between efficiency and effectiveness. Ethan attached an anti-magic force field to the giant sword, giving it the capability to penetrate the iron armor curse defense. After their creation, Ethan positioned them in the training ground, where the two golems engaged in a fierce battle. To any onlooker, it would appear as a duel between two knights. Their magic swords emitted a menacing glow, and the clash of sword against shield resonated with a deafening clang. This intense combat seemed to have no end. As they relentlessly attacked each other, the golems quickly became battered and worn. Yet, even with limbs severed and heads decapitated, as long as the golem's core remained intact, they could rise and fight once more. Moreover, should a golem be completely destroyed, its owner had the option to detonate its core, unleashing a powerful explosion capable of significantly impacting the opponent. "Stop," Ethan commanded, halting the climactic duel between the steel golems. He realized that if the magic swords fully breached the armor, his 5 days of meticulous work would be for naught. His recently mastered spell, Spirit Fire Explosion, could ignite the soul fire and trigger a detonation. The resulting destruction was formidable. The scene depicted a battle of big sword versus sword and shield. As the new month dawns, I find myself seeking support through custom orders, flowers, monthly tickets, reviews, and rewards. If you have tickets, please cast them in my favor. As the author, your support is incredibly valuable to me. Chapter 271, Ethan's Golem Design. Ethan's design of the golem progressed smoothly, earning him the construction specialization expertise during the process. He created 3 distinct types of steel golems, each named according to their weapon specialization and function: Shield Guard, Guard, and Formation Breaker. The Shield Guard, true to its name, is a golem designed with a focus on defense. It wields a large, often tower-sized, shield in one hand and a short sword or flail in the other. Ethan initially considered arming it with a pistol. These golems boast the strongest defense and magic resistance capabilities, capable of withstanding even the most potent blasting spells. Their primary role is to protect the wizard, serving as the last line of defense. The Guard represents the standard model among the steel golems. It carries a small or medium-sized shield in one hand and a medium-sized weapon, such as a long knife, long sword, or short spear, in the other. It can also dual-wield medium or short weapons. This model is versatile, capable of both attacking and defending, making it suitable for a variety of situations. The Formation Breaker is unique in that it does not carry a shield. Its defense and magic resistance are the weakest among the 3, but it is armed with the heaviest weapons, like spears, halberds, axes, and great swords, all designed to break through enemy lines. Despite sacrificing most of its defense, the Formation Breaker excels in attacking fortified positions, impervious to common spells like the Iron Armor Curse, making it ideal for charging into battle. These 3 models form the basis of Ethan's golem designs. Additional modifications can be applied, such as equipping them with stronger weapons to tackle more formidable foes, enhancing their magic resistance with an anti-magic force field to withstand spells without a shield, and imbuing them with self-repair capabilities to automatically mend any damage as long as the core remains intact. They can even be transformed into power armor, acting both independently and as an exoskeleton that provides the wearer with enhanced power and defense. Despite the impressive features, Ethan faced a significant challenge: the cost. The basic models were already expensive, and the proposed enhancements had to be shelved to manage expenses. Even in their simplified form, each golem's production cost was around 1,500 galleons, with a selling price of at least 2,500 galleons. Considering the average wizard's monthly income of 1 to 200 galleons, these golems represented a substantial investment, leaving Ethan uncertain if even the Auror office could afford them. Ultimately, it was Jaina who offered a solution. She proposed to initially rent a batch of golems under her name for Tonk's team. If the golems demonstrated sufficient effectiveness after the World Cup chaos, she would consider purchasing them on behalf of the Ministry of Magic. Encouraged by this plan, Ethan produced 20 steel golems for Jaina's use. As the days of research and labor flew by, Ethan arrived early at Onyxia's manor on the day of the Erudite Society's banquet. The manor, bathed in the summer sunlight, seemed to come alive with a new vibrancy. In the garden, long tables were arranged neatly, resembling winding dragons. Onyxia had prepared a lavish banquet, with exquisite pastries, candies, and various delicacies glistening in the sunlight, each emitting an enticing aroma that whetted the appetite. As the gathering time drew nearer, the anticipation among the attendees grew palpable. The little wizards arrived as scheduled, marveling at the beauty of the manor, their respect and admiration for Ethan growing even more. Just before the banquet began, Ethan stepped onto the specially constructed podium. Clearing his throat, he invoked the phantom sound technique, allowing his voice to resonate in every corner of the garden, whispering into everyone's ears. With enthusiasm, he announced, "Welcome, everyone. This beautiful manor will serve as our future gathering place. We aim to create a platform for communication, fostering a spirit of mutual assistance and benefit. Even after we leave Hogwarts and enter society, we must continue to support each other and progress together. Here's to knowledge and truth." Raising his glass, he toasted to all present, who in turn straightened up and raised their glasses in response. During the banquet, Miss Jaina Proudmoore made an elegant appearance, accompanied by Miss Nymphadora Tonks and Miss Katrana Presto. Ethan introduced the graduates to them, with Cyrilla and Hermione also making introductions. Despite the little wizard's attempts to impress her, Jaina, the deputy director of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, did not act superior. Instead, she presented herself as Ethan's sister, engaging warmly with everyone. She, along with Tonks and Katrana, communicated with the little wizards with genuine sincerity and enthusiasm. By the time Ethan left the banquet, the little wizards held deep respect and affection for Jaina, Tonks, and Katrana, praising them highly. These promising individuals were destined to become either the new blood of the Aurors or a fresh force in other departments of the Ministry of Magic. However, amidst the lively atmosphere, Penelo sat alone on a bench in the yard. Previously, she had been the organizer of various Academy of Knowledge activities, but now she found herself on the outskirts of the banquet. Her tulle dress fluttered in the summer night's breeze, revealing her white calves and beautiful ankles. She observed Ethan, mingling and laughing among the crowd, and then glanced at Cyrilla, whose eyes betrayed impatience. With a thoughtful expression and a slight furrow in her brows, a faint sparkle appeared in her eyes. As the party reached its peak, filled with laughter, conversation, and the clinking of tableware, Penelo felt a profound emptiness. The joy belonged to others, leaving her feeling devoid of connection. Finally, after Ethan delivered another speech, the banquet concluded. The little wizards stood, politely bidding farewell to their host. With their departure, a brief silence enveloped the manor. After seeing off the last guest, Ethan walked into the yard and immediately noticed the beautiful girl on the bench. She wore a blue gauze skirt adorned with a silver ribbon, which fluttered gently in the breeze, its folds sparkling in the sunlight. Crystal blue earrings dangled from her ears, swaying with her breath, accentuating her radiant face and giving her a delicate, charming appearance. "Would you like to take a walk around the manor with me?" Penelo Clavat asked, taking the initiative. Ethan, surprised, responded, "I thought you might want to invite Cyrilla." At the mention of the name, Penelo's frown deepened. "Will you join me or not?" she pressed. Without a word, Ethan looked into her eyes and extended his hand, his gesture conveying his acceptance. Penelo took his hand, allowing him to help her off the bench. Bathed in moonlight, the manor was enveloped in tranquility. "I start Auror training tomorrow," Penelo revealed suddenly. "I know. Cyrilla will be joining you," Ethan replied nonchalantly. Penelo's tone sharpened. "Can we not mention her right now?" "Why, I thought you were good friends." Ethan was a little surprised by Penelo's demeanor tonight. "Of course we are good friends." Penelo's words carried a hint of irritation. "It's precisely because we are good friends that I don't want you to mention her." After saying that, she looked directly at Ethan again. "Why is it you?" Ethan didn't respond immediately, but he had already grasped what she meant. The two walked forward in silence through the garden. After about 10 minutes of walking side by side, Penelo finally broke the silence as they began their third lap around the garden. "Send me away," she said calmly. "Okay, I'll see you off," Ethan replied, raising his head slightly to look at Penelo with sincere eyes. They walked all the way to the gate of the manor. Although it was less than 100 meters away, their pace slowed with each step. Why is it you? Penelo whispered softly. Before I met you, I always thought I liked girls. But why was it you? Ethan silently took her hand. He felt the girl's soft hand tremble slightly, but she did not pull away. No matter how slowly they walked, they quickly covered the distance of 100 meters. Upon reaching the door, Ethan waved his hand. So, see you tomorrow. It's already today. Penelo leaned forward slightly and corrected him mischievously. Yeah? Ethan sighed softly. Yes! Penelo laughed happily. So, see you later. Ethan's voice was particularly moving in the night. Don't oversleep. I'll set the alarm clock, Ethan assured her. Put on your pajamas, Penelo warned. Brush your teeth well, Ethan smiled and nodded. Cover yourself with a quilt, Penelo looked into the corner of Ethan's eyes. Have sweet dreams, Ethan also looked back at Penelo, their eyes full of deep friendship. Will you come into my dream? Penelo crossed her arms across her chest and asked quietly. I will come, Ethan smiled and replied in a deep voice. I remember there is a spell called dreamcasting. Don't mention magic at this time, Penelo said coquettishly. You are good at everything, and you and Cyrilla are quite romantic together, but you can't mention magic. Sorry, knee-jerk reaction. Ethan touched his head sheepishly to Formber. There was another moment of silence before Penelo waved goodbye. Goodbye! Goodbye! Ethan also extended his hand. Neither of them was willing to turn around, waving and retreating. Good night, Penelo said with a smile. Don't oversleep, Ethan reminded loudly. I just said this. Penelo's face was full of smiles. Yeah? Have a sweet dream then. I've said this before. Penelo shook her long hair playfully. Is this so? Ethan was still laughing, not embarrassed at all. If this continues, I will never be able to go home. Penelo put her hands behind her back, raised her eyebrows, and smiled. It's possible. Ethan couldn't help laughing. Penelo nodded, and an idea flashed. Then, that's good. We'll shout ready and turn back together. Good, Ethan agreed immediately. Ready. Both of them shouted at the same time. Ethan turned around in an instant and then took a few steps forward. Suddenly, he stopped and turned around to see that Penelo was still where she was, motionless. Seeing Ethan turn around, Penelo's face burst into a bright smile. Ethan! Penelo softly called his name, like the spring breeze blowing through the green leaves. She ran quickly into his arms. Ethan caught Penelo steadily, and he hugged her, allowing her feet to dangle in the air to avoid friction with the ground. He spun twice as if dancing an elegant waltz. I like you. Penelo murmured softly, her voice full of deep attachment and a trace of guilt. Obviously, you are Cyrilla's boyfriend, but I still can't help but like you. This is normal, Ethan comforted gently. Many people can't help but like me, so you don't have to blame yourself. You annoying narcissist. Penelo patted Ethan's back gently, but she suddenly felt much better. Cyrilla will definitely not blame me. Good night. Penelo suddenly stretched out her hands and gently cradled Ethan's face. She leaned over and bestowed upon him a tender kiss. This soft and gentle kiss was akin to a beautiful poem, instantly captivating Ethan's entire mind. However, Penelo quickly withdrew, resembling a light deer, joyfully sprinting into the distant night. Her figure gradually vanished into the darkness, yet her smile lingered in Ethan's heart, like stars illuminating the night sky. Displayed is Penelo's concept drawing. Chapter 272, a new chapter for Penelo. For Penelo, life has become anything but calm. Every day brings thrilling new training content, marking a significant shift from her previous routine. Like many erudite society graduates determined to join the Aurors, applying for the position was merely a formality. This was because Ethan had already provided Jaina with a list of these graduates, smoothing the application process with the department head. However, this was not a case of favoritism on Jaina's part. She adhered strictly to the Auror standards. Each candidate had to meet specific requirements, including obtaining at least 5 NEWT certificates with excellent or good grades in potions, defense against the dark arts, transfiguration, and charms, and maintaining a clean criminal record. Jaina exercised her discretion only within these parameters, a bottom line she and Ethan shared. For those erudite society graduates who fell just short of these requirements, but showed significant potential, and who did not intend to join the Ministry of Magic, Onyxia offered an alternative. She hired them and arranged for their training at her manor, funding this initiative with 50% of the extra money Ethan had allocated to her. Onyxia even requested to use her own dragon blood for the training, a request Ethan approved, understanding the necessity. Onyxia believed that in addition to aurors, a private army was essential for handling situations where auror intervention was impractical. She promised Ethan a loyal and powerful team, and he trusted her not to turn these individuals into unrecognizable monsters. Those who joined Auror Office 133 were placed under Tonks' command, embarking on intense and rigorous training. To enhance the training's effectiveness, Tonks enlisted Alastair Moody as a consultant. Moody, the most experienced Auror in the Ministry of Magic, had recently retired and was set to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts the following term. Despite knowing Penelo was a member of the Genius Club, Tonks did not ease her standards. She believed that extraordinary abilities required extraordinary training to be fully utilized. The Auror profession, fraught with danger, demanded utmost diligence and concentration, leaving no room for complacency. Cyrilla, with a stronger foundation than Penelo, required less training, allowing her to participate in the Quidditch World Cup training and competition. As a female witcher and the embodiment of the devil, Cyrilla's combat prowess far exceeded Tonks's. Her training focused on honing professional skills beyond combat to meet Ethan's expectations and support her best friend, Penelo. Penelo, determined not to disappoint Ethan or hold back her friend, completed all her training tasks diligently. She even attended additional practical training sessions in Ethan's tower during her spare time, inspiring her fellow Auror trainees to approach their training with greater discipline. Ethan planned to give Hermione, Zhang Chu, and Luna a head start during the summer, training them to handle potential threats from Death Eaters. Tonks took charge of most of the Auror training, covering foreign languages, psychology, combat, stealth, and disguise, and provided personal guidance back at the tower. Although she had already completed Auror training, Penelo was now eager to learn combat skills from Cyrilla. She found that training in Ethan's tower was far more engaging and practical than the training at Auror headquarters. Ethan had upgraded the training room and utilized illusions to simulate various scenarios, enhancing the practice experience. Trainees could now practice in deserts, oceans, mountains, swamps, and snowfields, among other environments. Furthermore, Ethan employed the mystical eye to record the trainees' sessions for self-review, and his steel golem had become an invaluable asset in actual combat training. In addition to arcane magic, the young witches in the Genius Club began to explore some aspects of dark magic. After all, potential future adversaries are adept in these arts, and Ethan felt it was crucial that the girls were not left ignorant. Consequently, everyone's schedules became incredibly full and busy. Hermione, Zhang Chu, and Luna were tasked with learning advanced spells such as teleportation and mechanized mind. Zhang Chu eagerly anticipated Ethan's daily teleportations to her home, followed by their hand-in-hand journey to the tower. However, witnessing the dedication of her peers, she pushed herself to not fall behind, especially not wanting to be a burden to Ethan. Despite her efforts, Zhang Chu felt overshadowed by her more naturally gifted friends, particularly Luna, who seemed to effortlessly keep pace despite her younger age and often distracted demeanor. Zhang Chu's hard work made her question her own abilities, not realizing that her skills far surpassed those of her peers and even older wizards. In this talented group, her exceptional abilities seemed merely average. The Auror training subjects are so complex, the training pressure intense, and the tasks demanding. It's no surprise that no Auror has passed the training except Tonks in the past 2 years, Jaina Proudmoore remarked as she browsed through the training manual compiled by Tonks. Maybe Cyrilla can pass, Tonks mused. With her abilities, she could easily become an instructor for the Aurors. She then glanced at Penelo. Given Penelo's current talent and ability, passing within 3 years should be no problem. Penelo's demeanor has become more formidable, Gianna added, hesitating before offering her praise. She believed Ethan had an excellent eye for talent. The girls training earnestly in the room were all outstanding. However, their excellence sometimes led to complications. Cyrilla and Penelo's relationship with Moody was particularly strained, resembling a cat and dog dynamic, making peaceful coexistence difficult. Moody found Cyrilla's methods overly harsh and was concerned that Penelo was becoming too engrossed in aggressive magic. They dismissed Moody's conservative views with laughter. 2 weeks into the training, Tonks shared her concerns with Ethan upon his return to the tower. Moody made a name for himself in the 1970s by refusing to use the unforgivable curses banned by the Ministry of Magic. Instead, he relied on his intelligence and bravery to guide Aurors who had turned to the Death Eaters back to the right path. His scars are a testament to his unwavering stance. He could have protected himself, but he chose to persevere. Although Jaina did not fully agree with Alastor Moody's philosophy, she admired his tenacity as a veteran Auror. Penelo was once such a quiet and graceful girl, but after the training, she transformed into a fierce predator, radiating a dangerous aura. She acts decisively, unafraid to employ more effective and lethal spells when faced with obstacles. She learned, as for Cyrilla, everyone knows I have a wizard who wields a sword like no other, but no one can defeat her. Everyone respects and fears her. I suspect Penelo learned from her. Ethan sat next to them, listening intently without interruption. However, the young Aurors have shown their support for them, and I believe what Cyrilla and the others are doing is right. There's nothing wrong with using more effective means to protect oneself. But I can't say much about Moody. After all, veteran Aurors like Kingsley support him. Tonks shrugged, feeling helpless. But Brother Ethan, you don't have to worry about this. Moody is only serving as a training consultant for a short period. Once you start school, he'll return to Hogwarts to teach defense against the dark arts. This will resolve any conflicts between him and Cyrilla. Gianna noticed Ethan's concern and quickly reassured him. I'm not worried about that, Sister Gianna. I'm thinking about the World Cup, Ethan said, shaking his head. World Cup? Aren't we preparing to deal with the Death Eaters based on your prophecy? Tonks asked, puzzled. No, what I mean is that I have further news about my prophetic I see, Ethan said earnestly. Tonks and Gianna immediately focused on Ethan, intrigued by his words. I've predicted a more precise time. Just after the finals, the Dark Mark will appear again, and there will be turmoil. If we prepare in advance, we can make a significant difference, Ethan explained with seriousness. Okay, Brother Ethan, I will make the arrangements, ensure we're adequately prepared, and handle this beautifully, Tonks said, fully trusting Ethan's words. His previous predictions had all come true, and now Ethan had provided a more specific time frame, fueling her ambition. We should also get some reporters involved. I'll arrange that, Onyxia added, joining the conversation. Chapter 273, The Quidditch World Cup Fever. As the weather grew hotter, so did the anticipation for the upcoming Quidditch World Cup. Wizards everywhere were buzzing with excitement about the event. No one would have thought that the England team could reach the final, Tonks said with a hearty laugh. This season, Ethan and Cyrilla have been like two dark horses that emerged out of nowhere. Even the Irish team, with their high hopes for winning the championship, was overturned by Ethan, his brother, and their teammates. Jaina Proudmoore beamed with pride. It's indeed rare. The Irish team consists of 7 excellent players. Meanwhile, the Bulgarian team managed to defeat Peru and enter the final solely because of Victor Krum, Tonks added, her voice laced with disdain, as she stuffed a large piece of Bakewell pasty into her mouth. It's time for you to go, Tonks, Jaina said, glancing at the clock. Tonks looked outside at the darkening sky and replied, Okay, dear Deputy Director, future Minister, please wait for our good news. She then donned the red and white uniform, picked up the beak mask, and walked out. To someone from Ethan's previous life, she would have looked like a member of the Assassin Brotherhood. Jaina smiled, shook his head, and finished his red tea in one gulp. Onyxia, sitting at the table, was boredly checking a large ball ticket made from a bunch of parchment paper. Footsteps echoed in the aisle as Hermione, Jiangchu, and Luna walked into the restaurant, looking very pale as if they hadn't fully woken up. Now, it's just Ethan and Cyrilla, Onyxia said, directing 3 pieces of butter pudding bread to fly in front of them. Good morning. Ethan greeted everyone with a smile as he appeared neatly on the dining chair. Why don't you sleep longer? We just need to get there before noon, Jaina asked with concern. I also need to meet up with the team a bit early, Ethan replied, nodding to the 3 girls. Cyrilla then appeared at the dining table, having returned from her usual morning exercises in the woods, a habit she maintained. After the meal, everyone gathered in the living room with their large, bulging backpacks. Jaina distributed the parchment with the address to everyone and teleported there first with Iwu. Following her lead, everyone else set off and soon appeared in a dense forest with a stone path unfolding before them. "I'll find where our camp is," Jaina said, taking out a piece of parchment with a flat map of the camp on it. "Go forward 1/4 of a mile, and you'll see the camp. We're in the 3rd camp." The group walked along the stone path for about 10 minutes, coming to the top of a gentle slope. Below them, hundreds of strangely shaped tents came into view. Suddenly, a rough man with a messy beard and a shotgun in hand appeared before them. His eyes, full of confusion, were intently observing the ordinary campsite. The sound of their footsteps caught his attention, and he turned around, asking politely, "Hello, sir and ladies, do you need to rent a tent?" Ethan shook his head. "We already have a tent." The man, momentarily stunned, flipped through a notebook for a long time, then scratched his head in embarrassment. "I've been forgetting things lately. I must have forgotten about this. I'm really sorry," he said. He introduced himself. "My name is Roberts. I am the manager of this camping ground. I live by the lake. If you need anything, just come to me. Even if I'm not here, my wife and daughter will help you." Ethan nodded, having already realized that Roberts was a complete muggle. As expected, as soon as Roberts finished speaking, 2 staff members wearing Ministry of Magic uniforms emerged from the campsite and, without a word, cast the forgetting curse on Roberts. Ethan became sluggish, and one of the staff members quickly escorted him away. Another staff member approached Gianna with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, Deputy Director Proudmoore. This was our oversight. We've had to cast the forgetting curse on him at least a dozen times a day, but he persistently returns here and interacts with other wizards. It's been quite troublesome for us." Gianna, understanding the situation, did not take offense and nodded, proceeding into the campsite with Ethan and the others. Before departing, Ethan paused to honor Mr. Roberts with 3 seconds of silence. The excessive use of the forgetting curse on Mr. Roberts more than 10 times a day would inevitably impair his memory, potentially leaving him in a state of confusion. Upon reaching the edge of the forest, a clearing emerged, marked by an unassuming small sign. "Oh, it's Deputy Proudmoore." Percy Weasley's voice rang out, nervous yet respectful. "Welcome. Would you like a cup of tea?" "That would be perfect," Gianna replied with a smile, observing Percy calmly. Percy bowed deeply, his posture reminiscent of a hunchback, and said, "Please enjoy." "Thank you, Weasley," Gianna responded. At that moment, Mr. Arthur Weasley, with a bright smile, greeted Gianna. "Jaina, are you setting up a tent?" he inquired, feigning great interest. Arthur proudly showed Gianna his handiwork. Meanwhile, Harry and Ron emerged from their dilapidated tent. Upon spotting Hermione, Ron's eyes sparkled, and he eagerly led Harry towards her. Harry, not to be outdone, shared a warm glance with Zhang Chu. "Ethan, Hermione, Luna, Cyrilla, and Cho," Harry greeted, visibly delighted to see his Hogwarts classmates, especially Hermione. Ethan returned the smile, noting, "It seems you and your godfather had a great time during the holidays." "Hello, kids. Ethan, Hermione, Cyrilla, and your name is Zhang Chu, right? Why didn't you visit the burrow this year?" "Molly missed you all," Mr. Arthur Weasley said warmly. Ron, however, seemed uncomfortable and looked away. Hermione's eyes sparkled as she replied, "Thank you, Mr. Weasley. We had activities with our Boschi Society over the summer, so I couldn't accept the invitation." Ethan was taken aback, having not received an invitation from Ron. However, noticing Ron's evasive gaze, Ethan quickly understood the situation. He shrugged, choosing not to confront Ron, but instead showing empathy. Gianna, sensing the tension, suggested, "How about we let Ron and the others take a walk and relax?" The gathering was bustling with opportunities. Vendors appeared every few steps, their trays and trolleys laden with an array of peculiar items. There were hats adorned with roses fluttering in the breeze, Bulgarian ribbons featuring roaring lions, national flags that played anthems when waved, miniature flying models of firebolts, and statues of famous players that could move in one's palm. Ethan made it a point to purchase small gifts for the girls at each stall, not forgetting to treat his friends as well. A cookie shaped like the Yin Kingdom team emblem brought a smile to Xiaolong's face. Although Harry was also pleased, he knew his funds were reserved for life after graduation and couldn't splurge like Ethan lest he upset Professor Dumbledore. His only impulsive buy was a firebolt model for Zhang Chu, which was promptly rejected. Then, he watched as Zhang Chu joyfully accepted a red and white licorice candy from Ethan, treating it like a treasured gift. Ethan could fully empathize with Ron's situation. Unlike the rest, Ron couldn't afford to buy anything and could only watch others with a sense of helplessness. Each of their friends had their hands full of souvenirs, but Ron's pockets were empty. The incident with the Irish leprechauns, who had scattered what appeared to be gold coins during the last game, had tricked him into spending recklessly, only to find out later that the coins were not real. This mistake led to a significant debt that Mr. Weasley had to work hard for a month to clear. Mrs. Molly Weasley was furious, and the repercussions were severe. Consequently, Ron had no pocket money for the summer vacation. In the end, Harry's gift of a panoramic telescope to Ron alleviated the awkwardness of his empty-handedness. "Look, Hermione, it's Krum. I really admire him," Ron said excitedly, showing off a small statue in his hand, a miniature version of the Bulgarian seeker, Victor Krum. The tiny figure of Krum paced back and forth on Ron's palm, his brow furrowed, casting a determined gaze upon the world. "Thanks," a deep voice responded. "Oh, it's Krum!" Ron was so thrilled he was nearly breathless. He noticed Krum's intense gaze fixed on Hermione, who was still browsing through the small items, and quickly introduced her. "Hermione, this is Krum, the world's #1 seeker. He's the best." Upon hearing this, Hermione looked up, slightly annoyed, then nodded and remarked, "Ron, the world's #1 seeker might not be able to outmatch the world's #1 chaser." Krum, taken aback by her comment, had grown accustomed to praise, but had never before encountered someone openly lauding another player in his presence. He gave Hermione a surprised look. Ethan stepped forward, offering a smile and a handshake. "Hello, I am Ethan Green, the chaser for the England team, and this is my partner, Chaser Sorella Leanne." "Hello, I am Victor Krum, the seeker from the Bulgarian team," Krum replied, returning the handshake. After the formalities, Krum's attention returned to Hermione. "And who might this be?" he inquired, turning to Ethan. Hermione Granger, the most accomplished witch at Hogwarts," Ethan replied, causing Hermione's cheeks to flush with embarrassment. "Hermy, nice to meet you," Krum said, struggling slightly with the pronunciation due to his accent. After a brief glance at Hermione, he nodded to Ethan and then departed. Now, Ethan and his companions found their wallets significantly lighter, though their hands were not burdened with purchases. They bid farewell to Harry and Ron, setting off to locate their own campsite, Camp 3. Chapter 274, A Magical Camping Experience. The Ministry of Magic had chosen a picturesque hillside for Jaina's camp, offering a breathtaking panoramic view of the Quidditch field. A slight shift in gaze revealed the serene lake and the lush forest, creating a perfect harmony of tranquility and natural beauty. This secluded spot was at just the right distance from other campsites, ensuring privacy and a peaceful atmosphere exclusive to those of significant standing. In contrast, the majority of people were relegated to crowded camping areas, their experience reminiscent of the cramped living conditions in Hong Kong's subdivided flats. "Okay, let's start setting up the tent," Hermione, filled with excitement, declared after admiring the scenery. Having gone camping with her parents in her childhood, she harbored a deep interest in the activity and was eager to experience camping the Wizarding way. Her anticipation was met with Ethan's display of magic. A magnificent tent materialized with a flash of magical light. It stood 5 meters tall, covering an area of about 40 square meters, as grand as a palace. Nearby, Ethan had also erected an awning, beneath which a magical bonfire crackled, illuminating the tables and chairs arranged around it. The aroma of hot soup wafting through the air was tantalizing. However, Hermione couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed. "This is not what I had in mind for camping," she thought to herself. She had imagined wizard camping as a collaborative effort, where everyone would use magic to piece together a tent and arrange furniture inside it, using the space expansion spell. The instantaneous completion of the campsite left her longing for the process she had envisioned. This is the camping technique, Ethan explained to everyone. It's a spell I created, inspired by demiplane seeds and the mansion spell, allowing for the instant summoning of a tent stored in a demiplane. Despite the praises from others and acknowledging Ethan's talent and ingenuity in creating the camping technique, Hermione couldn't shake off her disappointment. Reluctantly, she followed Ethan into the tent, which he and Jaina had specially prepared for the trip. Despite its modest exterior, the tent was surprisingly spacious inside, featuring 10 rooms, a reception area, a recreation room, and 3 bathrooms. However, Hermione's hopes for a traditional camping experience dwindled further upon seeing the interior, which mirrored the decor of Ethan's tower. The familiarity was comforting, yet it underscored her realization that excessive convenience through magic might detract from the essence of camping. As dusk approached, the camp was enveloped in an air of excitement. The arrival of evening brought a palpable sense of anticipation, which was heightened by the sudden sound of a low, powerful gong emanating from the woods. In response, thousands of red and green lights illuminated the treetops, creating a starlit path leading to the stadium, infusing the route with life and color. "Time is up!" exclaimed Lady Jaina Proudmoore, her voice echoing the collective excitement. "Quick, let's go!" Leading the way, Jaina and Lucius Malfoy guided the group forward. After sharing a meal, Lucius had finally disclosed to Jaina and Ethan the impending move of the Death Eaters. Although Ethan and his companions were already aware, Lucius's openness marked a significant shift in his allegiance, signaling a form of defection from the Dark Lord. Ethan graciously accepted this gesture of goodwill. Draco Malfoy, with the fire dragon of the England team firmly in his grasp, followed closely behind, his anticipation for the event palpable. The Quidditch ball logo, along with the twin magical statues of Ethan Green and Cyrilla Ray Allen, greeted them with bright smiles as they followed the two principals. They briskly walked into the woods along the illuminated path, where the surrounding noise, laughter, and intermittent singing intertwined to create a vivid and enchanting scene. This infectious excitement also enveloped Ethan, filling his heart with joy. They successfully passed the ticket inspection and entered the magnificent stadium. Onyxia departed first to join the backstage of the Yin Kingdom team, as she was responsible for the fire dragon, the team's mascot for the day. The stairs leading to the stadium were adorned with purple-red carpets. Climbing up with the crowd, they eventually split into the stands on the left and right sides. Guided by Gianna down, they reached the top of the stairs and found themselves in a small, exclusive box. Positioned at the highest point of the stadium and facing the golden goal, it offered an exceptional view. The box contained more than a dozen purple and gold-plated seats, arranged in 2 rows, reserved by Gianna at a considerable expense. However, Gianna didn't linger there. After instructing her companions from the Genius Club to place their belongings, she led Ethan and Cyrilla to another box on the top floor, with Lucius and Draco following. "Lady Proudmoore, it's an honor to meet you. Ethan, Cyrilla, it's a pleasure to be with you." Sirius Black greeted them in a rare and polite manner, which took Ethan by surprise. Sirius engaged in a cheerful conversation with Ethan. "Your suggestion was excellent. Harry and I spent every day of this holiday together and had a wonderful time." The previous gloom on Sirius's face was replaced by sheer happiness. "Vernon must be quite the sight," Ethan remarked, unable to suppress a laugh at the thought. Upon entering the box, Percy Weasley stood up abruptly, as if he had just sat on a porcupine, and greeted Anna. When Ron saw Harry entering with Ethan and Malfoy, he grimaced and pulled Harry aside. Draco, casting a disdainful glance at Harry and Ron, chose to stand silently behind Ethan. Suddenly, Gianna's laughter cut through the tension. "Bagman, why are you collecting money from children?" Startled, Bagman quickly pocketed the gold galleons and approached to shake hands with Ms. Proudmoore. "Ludo, are you all set?" Gianna inquired. "Of course, I can't wait," Bagman replied with a smile, waving his hand as if he had everything under control. Ethan politely greeted Bagman, asking, "Are you betting on the outcome of the game?" Bagman, glancing at Gianna, who was smiling reassuringly, replied lightly, "Just trying to add a bit of excitement to the game." "Lucius, would you like to join in on this bet?" Gianna asked with keen interest. "Of course, I have to participate," Lucius chuckled, treating it as casually as one might buy fish, chips, and beer while watching a football match. "Let me see, I'll bet 1,000 galleons on the Yin Kingdom to win," Gianna declared. Her aura leaving the Weasley family in awe, and her radiant pride almost too intense to face directly. Ethan understood that Bagman would struggle to cover such a large bet. Gianna, likely aware of Bagman's financial situation, seemed to have a hidden agenda. This move not only allowed her to better control him, but also served as a subtle show of support for Ethan and Cyrilla. 1,000 gold galleons? That's quite a sum, Bagman remarked, momentarily taken aback before quickly regaining his composure. Then, the odds I offer won't be too high, as I too believe that Ethan and Cyrilla will lead the Yin Kingdom to victory, he said, winking at Ethan to reassure him. Lucius glanced at him and calmly stated, "I will Ethan too," decided to place the same wager, betting on the victory of the Kingdom of Yin. Bagman appeared on the verge of fainting. "For a wager of this magnitude, I must adjust the odds. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Lucius gave him a brief, piercing look, conveying without words that their decision was final and irrevocable. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Ludo Bagman, albeit reluctantly, extracted his notebook and quill. With a sense of resignation, he meticulously recorded the names of Miss Proudmoore and Mr. Lucius. The bet was now an unalterable agreement between them. Chapter 275. At that moment, the sound of glass shattering echoed behind them. It was when Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, made his entrance that Percy, in his eagerness to bow, dropped his glasses, causing them to break. Flustered, he quickly repaired the lenses with his wand before taking his seat, looking somewhat dazed. Jaina stepped forward to greet Fudge, who welcomed him like an old friend. He then turned to Ethan and Cyrilla, holding their hands warmly as if they were his own children, and introduced them to the wizard seated next to him. Their familiarity seemed as if it had been years in the making. "Ethan Green and Cyrilla Ray Allen," he announced to the Bulgarian Minister of Magic, who was clad in a stunning black velvet robe adorned with gold. Despite the language barrier, Fudge's enthusiasm was unmistakable. The two youngest chasers in Quidditch World Cup history, and the best partners. Beyond Quidditch, their achievements are numerous. You're familiar with them, aren't you? The Bulgarian wizard scrutinized Ethan and Cyrilla, his excitement palpable as he burst into a loud animated chatter. "Thank you for the compliment. Indeed, my animagus form is a chimera," Ethan replied modestly, adding, "And yes, Shirley does have Eastern European roots." Cyrilla joined the conversation, though her Bulgarian was not as fluent as Ethan's. Given that the language of her homeland in the Witcher world closely resembled the Slavic languages of Eastern Europe, she managed to communicate. "It's wonderful that you can speak Bulgarian. You and Klum are truly remarkable talents," the Bulgarian wizard praised, clearly impressed by their poise and confidence, which endeared them to nearly everyone present. Fudge, trying to bridge the communication gap, remarked, "It's been challenging to communicate. Thank goodness Crouch understands Bulgarian. But—" He then introduced Mr. Obolansk, the Bulgarian Minister of Magic, with a smile, despite the language barrier. Ethan and Cyrilla exchanged pleasantries with Mr. Obolansk, discussing the customs of their respective countries and their love for Quidditch. Meanwhile, Ludo Bagman seemed to have a moment of realization and perked up. "Is everyone ready?" he asked, his face beaming like a giant cheese ball. "Minister, shall we begin?" "Whenever you're ready, Ludo," Fudge responded warmly. Realizing it was time, Ethan quickly bid farewell and led Cyrilla out of the box to join their team. The stadium outside buzzed with anticipation. Ethan teleported to the locker room, where he and his teammates donned their uniforms, ready for the season's final game. As they sat together, Coach Hamish prepared to give them a pep talk. His gaze, sharp as a falcon's, swept over the players. "Before we start, I have something to say," he began, capturing everyone's attention. "But don't worry, my speech will be shorter than your flight training." Laughter filled the room, easing the tension. "Today, we stand on the brink of the World Cup finals. If you're feeling nervous, that's normal. I'm as nervous as a bird taking its first flight," Hamish confessed, his voice laden with emotion. "Reaching this point is a milestone I never achieved, neither as a player nor as a coach. You've already surpassed me." Pride swelled within the team, inspired by Hamish's words. They were ready to face whatever the game brought. Compliments from this iron-blooded coach were rare. But is it enough just to reach the finals? He paused, then continued. No, at least not for me. It took sweat, tears, and even blood to get us to where we are today. For what? Just for that final moment of glory. What is our goal? To be champions, nothing less. Someone once asked me why I have so much confidence in you. I told him it's because I've seen you practice a pass or an action hundreds of times until it was perfect. I've seen that after you were injured, what flashed in your eyes was not pain, but determination. I know this spirit is tougher than a horned camel. Do you know? Now kids all over the world are imitating us, wearing smaller versions of the Yin Kingdom uniforms and dreaming the same dreams as us. Think about it. If we falter, we will ruin the childhood of a group of children. The players started making noise, some even clapping their hands. Hamish raised his hands, silencing them, and continued. Okay, players, I know you can't wait. So for those kids, for those looking forward to us, for those fans ready to celebrate, and for me, about to become a World Cup champion coach, let's go for it. He raised his right hand, as if to seize victory. The team members followed Hamish closely, praising and cheering loudly. Hamish asked loudly, Are you ready? The team members shouted in unison, Ready! Then follow me and rush towards the highest honor together, for the Yin Kingdom and for ourselves. The team members stood up one after another, their voices full of fighting spirit and their expressions firm, ready to step onto their own arena, their stage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the Bulgarian Quidditch national team. Let me introduce to you Dimitrov. Bagman's sonorous voice sounded, and the Bulgarian players, waiting at the entrance, flew into the stadium to wild applause from their supporters. Ethan, what's your relationship with Hermie? Crumb, frowning with two thick black eyebrows, looked at Ethan. She is a very close friend of mine. Ethan raised an eyebrow and looked at Crumb. So, what about her? Crumb glanced at Cyrilla next to Ethan, noticing their hands tightly clasped together. This display made many players shy away. Of course, they are also very close friends. Ethan raised his other eyebrow, his expression becoming more and more proud. Crumb opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but it was his turn to appear. Zograf, Levski, Volkanov, Volkov. Next up, Crumb! Bagman shouted Crumb's name with all his might. You, scumbag, I will prove to Hermione that I am the best Quidditch player. Crumb left a word and flew out. Ethan didn't care about his words and turned to laugh. Emotionally, he never cared about other people's provocations. In his eyes, Crumb wasn't even a competitor. Now, please welcome the England Quidditch national team, Bagman shouted loudly. When he heard his name, Ethan flew out quickly, eager to use his strength to captivate the audience. The audience erupted into cheers and applause. Thousands of flags waved simultaneously, accompanied by chaotic cheers, creating a lively scene. Cyrilla soon followed, and the cheers grew even louder. Ethan even saw someone holding up an Ethan and Cyrilla sign and shouting for them to be together. Forget about chasing stars. Why are you still chasing CP? It's no wonder that with the passing of 3 elimination games, Ethan and Cyrilla's superb performance as chasers made their reputations resound around the world. As the two became famous, everything about their past also came to light in front of fans around the world, including but not limited to them killing the Chimera Beast together, slaying the Basilisk, and participating in dragon hunts. Whenever Ethan accomplishes something significant, Cyrilla is always there by his side. Their understanding on the court has not only brought them closer, but has also united their fans. This camaraderie led me to playfully suggest marriage between the two. Their teammates followed suit in the teasing. And our referee today is Hassan Mustafa, the president of the International Quidditch Federation, who has traveled from the vast deserts of Egypt, crossing thousands of mountains and rivers. He is enthusiastically supported by Quidditch fans worldwide. This distinguished chairman is a short, lean wizard with a completely bald head and a thick beard, resembling an ancient sage, mysterious and majestic. A shining silver whistle peeks out from under his thick beard, almost as if it's the conductor's baton for the Quidditch world. He wears a shining pure gold robe, its color harmonizing with the stadium's tones. Hu Ying observed him as he entered the Stadium, carrying a large wooden box under one arm and his broomstick under the other. Mustafa mounted his broomstick and kicked the wooden box open. 4 balls leaped into the air. The bright red quaffle blazed like fire. The 2 black bludgers resembled ghosts in the dark night, and the small, delicate golden snitch, with its wings, sliced through the sky like lightning. Ethan only managed to catch a glimpse of the golden snitch before it vanished into the vast sky. Mustafa blew his silver whistle and ascended into the air after the balls. Update 5/4, additional update 52. A new month has arrived. I'm reaching out for custom orders, flowers, monthly tickets, comments, and rewards. If you have tickets, please support me, the author. This is truly important to me. Chapter 256. Almost as soon as the referee blew the whistle, the players from both teams exerted their utmost effort in the match. Ethan exploded with surprising speed right from the start, snatching the quaffle from Bulgarian chaser Dimitrov. Volkov, a Bulgarian beater, swung his bat fiercely, sending a bludger hurtling towards Ethan. However, without even glancing back, Ethan ducked, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, dodged the bludger, and passed the quaffle, which was skillfully caught by Cirilla below. Beautiful wall pass. Ethan scores the first goal of the game. Bagman bellowed, his voice booming through the stadium, igniting a wave of cheers that made the stands tremble. 100. The Yin Kingdom team takes the lead. Ethan and Cirilla demonstrated their exceptional skills and understanding once again. Their seamless cooperation and synchronized movements suggested a deep, almost telepathic connection. As the game progressed, they continued to display this remarkable synergy, frequently executing flawless passes. Within the first 10 minutes, the Yin Kingdom team had scored 2 additional goals, pushing the score to 30-0, much to the delight and thunderous applause of their supporters. The match grew more intense and fierce. Bulgarian beaters Volkov and Volkanov relentlessly targeted the Yin Kingdom chasers, especially Ethan and Cirilla, in an attempt to disrupt their offensive plays. However, the disparity in strength between the two teams was stark. The once formidable veterans of the Bulgarian team were now either retired or sidelined due to injuries. This new generation, despite their efforts, lacked standout players like Ethan and Cirilla. If not for Krum, their exceptional seeker, who had repeatedly turned the tide in their favor, Bulgaria might not have made it this far in the finals. After thwarting another Bulgarian attack, the Yin Kingdom team executed a long pass and fast break. Cirilla managed to outmaneuver the Bulgarian goalkeeper Zoglov, scoring yet another goal and extending their lead to 40-0. Zoglov, feeling a mix of frustration and helplessness, clenched his fist in defeat. In the stands, the Bulgarian supporters began their loud and coordinated chants, a testament to their resilience and hope in Krum's ability to turn the game around. Krum is recognized as the world's #1 seeker, and he hopes that Ethan and Cirilla, the best chaser pairing, can widen the gap and secure a victory before he catches the golden snitch, Bagman announced. Suddenly, Bagman exclaimed, "Oh my God, Krum has spotted the golden snitch. Parkin is in pursuit. And look, it's Ethan Green, joining the chase alongside Krum." The stadium held its breath as the 3 players, 2 seekers, and 1 chaser, dove through the air with breathtaking speed as if they had leaped from an airplane without parachutes. The snitch fluttered just above the green lawn, its wings beating rapidly. In the final moment, Ethan surged ahead of Krum, positioning himself between Krum and the snitch to prolong the game. Krum narrowly avoided colliding with Ethan, pulling up just in time and circling away, but the golden snitch had vanished from sight. It's Ethan again. He's playing dual roles, not only scoring the most goals, but also protecting the seeker. This isn't the first time he's pulled off such a crucial maneuver, Bagman praised. With such skill, he could easily be a seeker. In the Quidditch World Cup, Krum had faced tough battles in every match, but none as challenging as today. He realized that among his opponents were 2 players with exceptional flying talent who, surprisingly, chose not to be seekers, but teamed up as chasers instead. These 2 individuals were not content with merely bullying others in their chaser positions. They also encroached upon the seeker's territory. Ethan and Cirilla, either individually or together, frequently obstructed him just as he was about to capture the golden snitch. Their presence ensured that he couldn't get within 10 meters of the snitch. Despite Ethan's efforts to contain the opposing team's chasers, his teammates continued to lose ground. The score gap gradually widened, 50 euro, 70-10, 120, 140-30, 170-40. When the score reached 250, as announced by Bagman, Krumov felt a sense of despair. He realized that even if he managed to catch the golden snitch immediately, reversing the situation was out of the question. Bulgaria was losing. Merlin's beard, what do I see? Bagman exclaimed at that moment. Ethan and Cirilla abandoned their pursuit of the quaffle and joined Parkin in chasing the golden snitch. According to Quidditch rules, they couldn't capture the snitch themselves, but they skillfully blocked its path with their bodies, regardless of which direction it flew. This tactic nearly caused the Bulgarian team to lose all hope. Only Crumb, with a light touch on his broom, continued his pursuit towards Ethan and Cirilla. He was determined to face his end in a blaze of glory. In the top box of the stadium, the Bulgarian minister could no longer tolerate the one-sided nature of the game. He stood up, approached Fudge, and pleaded in English for the game to end. Meanwhile, in another corner of the box, Ron voiced his complaints in a low tone. What a hypocritical show-off! He couldn't hide his jealousy towards Ethan, who was hogging all the limelight. With such skill, he ought to show some humility instead of humiliating Crumb like this. Ron's blunt criticism drew frequent glances from those around him. Malfoy quickly countered, "That's how a true champion behaves." Suddenly, a wave of gasps swept through the crowd. Despite Crumb's aggressive approach, Ethan and Cirilla easily dodged, maintaining their complex maneuvers. Crumb, moving too fast to stop, crashed into the box, colliding with Ron in a most unfortunate and awkward manner. Their lips met with a loud boom, leaving Ron's face twisted in shock. The embarrassment of such intimate contact with his idol, witnessed by Malfoy and Harry, was overwhelming. Ron wished he could disappear into the ground, especially under Malfoy's gloating gaze and Harry's look of dismay. On the other side, Crumb, still carrying momentum, slid face first to Hermione's feet, his face bloody and his front teeth missing. During his slide, he accidentally struck the Bulgarian minister's leg, causing the minister to kneel in front of Fudge. Fudge struggled to maintain his composure, barely stifling a laugh, while the sound of camera shutters filled the air, courtesy of Luna. As the daughter of the Quibbler's editor-in-chief and a part-time reporter, she was diligently capturing the moment. When Crumb finally stood up, wiping the blood from his face, the referee's whistle blew. By then, the Yin Kingdom's seeker, Bryce Parkin, had already joined the two chasers and effortlessly secured the golden snitch in a different manner. Crumb's expression darkened further upon seeing this, and his teammates gathered around, sharing in his dismay. Shaking their heads and looking dejected, the players from the opposing team stood not far from Ethan. Meanwhile, the Yin Country team celebrated their victory with unbridled joy. Their mascot, a majestic creature, soared through the sky, roaring and emitting streams of red and white breath. Flags fluttered everywhere in the stadium, and the Yin Country national anthem resonated from all corners. Now, the members of the Yin Kingdom team are circling the field accompanied by their mascots, and the Quidditch World Cup trophy is being delivered to the top box. Bagman announced in a clear, bell-like voice. Positioned under a giant statue of an iron-gray eagle with its wings spread wide on the top floor, Penelope Clivot observed the entire game. The grandeur of the World Cup had even mobilized the Auror reserves in Luo. Tonks had made special arrangements for Penelope to stay here, ensuring she could witness the game in full. Dressed in her new Auror uniform, which fluttered in the strong wind, she watched Ethan and Cirilla with a happy smile. Suddenly, a dazzling light flashed, magically illuminating the top box and allowing all the spectators in the stands to see clearly. At the entrance, two panting wizards appeared, carrying a large gold cup into the box and handing it to Cornelius Fudge. Fudge, unable to contain his inner joy any longer, smiled broadly and laughed out loud. "Let us warmly applaud and welcome the hard-working and persevering Bulgarian team members to the stage," Bagman shouted. The 7 defeated Bulgarian players ascended to the box, receiving applause from the audience below in appreciation. As they walked into the rows of seats, shaking hands with the ministers and Fudge, Bagman announced each of their names. Krum, arriving last, looked particularly gloomy, with dark circles under his eyes and a less coordinated gait. His legs were splayed, and his shoulders slumped. However, when Bagman announced Krum's name, the entire stadium offered him a respectful round of applause. Krum's expression darkened further. He did not seek sympathy. Then, the members of the Yin Kingdom team made their entrance. All smiles. The stadium erupted into an extremely warm and deafening cheer when Bagman announced the names of Ethan Green and Cyrilla Ray Allen. As Ethan and Cyrilla received the Quidditch World Cup from Fudge, they shared a kiss, igniting cheers from the crowd. The stadium transformed into a sea of joy, with everyone celebrating their victory and the beautiful relationship between these two partners who shared a perfect understanding. The members of the Yin national team mounted their broomsticks again, taking turns to congratulate the intimate couple. Ethan and Cyrilla, holding the Quidditch World Cup, circled the field once more on their broomsticks, basking in the glory of their triumph. Chapter 277. Harry sat in the stands, watching Ethan's retreating figure with a sense of envy. He sighed. I wish I had half of Ethan's grades. Harry, you're a Quidditch star at Hogwarts too, aren't you? You've also performed exceptionally well as a seeker. In fact, I heard you were the youngest seeker in a century, Sirius said, patting Harry's shoulder warmly and offering encouragement. Harry shook his head. Ethan, Cyrilla, and Krum, although they are not very old, they are much better than me. If Ethan had played the position of seeker in the first grade, the youngest record would have been his. Harry's eyes clouded with confusion. Despite his fame in the wizarding world, his grades at Hogwarts were average, and he often found himself in trouble. He felt burdened by this savior aura and yearned to be seen as just an ordinary wizard. Harry, everyone is unique, and everyone has their own path of growth. There's no need to envy others. However, there's something you should consider. Sirius hesitated before continuing. What's the matter, Sirius? Harry's curiosity was piqued. You should try to make some new friends, like Diggory over there. He's a kind kid, very helpful. Most importantly, I heard he plays Seeker like you, so you'll definitely have a lot to talk about. Harry looked in the direction Sirius pointed and saw Cedric sitting between his parents, radiating friendliness. Harry knew Cedric. He was quite popular at school, second only to Ethan. But neither Sirius nor Harry knew that Harry and Cedric shared common interests beyond Quidditch, such as their affection for the same girl. Harry pondered Sirius's advice, recalling Ron's negative comments about Ethan throughout the night. Knowing how much Sirius admired Ethan and grateful for Ethan's help over the summer, Harry felt compelled to persuade Ron to stop targeting Ethan. After all, Ethan's popularity and talent meant that Ron's criticisms were not only unfair, but also harmful to Ron himself. So, Harry stood up, approached Ron under the pretense of buying some food, and led him away from the crowd. He wanted to have a sincere conversation with Ron, to help him see that Ethan's excellence didn't diminish their own worth, but could inspire them to improve. Krum's defeat was so embarrassing. Ethan showed no mercy at all. They actually kissed in public. What would Hermione think? Ron complained. Ron, Harry interjected, looking around, don't speak ill of Ethan anymore. He helped us a lot back then. Remember, he was the one who rescued us from the secret room. But, Ron stammered, his thoughts drifting to Hermione, dressed up and charming, fueling his jealousy towards Ethan. However, he knew he had to heed Harry's words, especially since this was the first time Harry had spoken to him so earnestly. Okay, I see. He nodded silently, though his dissatisfaction with Ethan deepened. As they were swept up by the crowd leaving the stadium and heading back to the camp, Ethan and the others walked along a lantern-lit path. High-pitched chirps filled the night sky. It was the kingdom of Yin's mascot, the fire dragon, singing and roaring. For many wizards, this was their first encounter with the fire dragon's song. Ethan returned to the tent, but it wasn't time to sleep yet. The thrill of winning the game lingered, but what was even more crucial was strategizing tonight's defensive measures to counter the looming threat. With no time to soothe the jealous girls, Ethan convinced Jiang Chu, Luna, and Hermione to return to the tower to rest using the mansion technique. Hermione made sure to bring her pet, Crookshanks, along. Iwu, the dragon, whose strength was tied to Ethan, was usually playful but became a formidable fighter in battle, easily overpowering the Death Eaters. Meanwhile, Jaina Proudmoore began summoning her subordinates, decisively and calmly assigning tasks as part of a preventive drill, ensuring the defense operations were well organized. Soon the night air was filled with singing and odd crashing sounds from the other town end of the camp, accompanied by distant screams and the sound of people running in panic. This chaos unfolded just as Ethan had predicted. "Everyone, follow the orders given earlier," Miss Proudmoore commanded, her voice firm. The Aurors quickly left the tent, stepping into the darkness and facing potential dangers with a clear and determined goal: to protect the camp and fend off the enemy. Ethan left the tent quietly, blending into the night like a ghost. He waited invisibly at the entrance of the luxurious tent next door. Inside, Lucius Malfoy was dressed in a black cloak, his light blonde hair hidden by the hat. Narcissa Black Malfoy, his wife, held his hand with a worried expression. "Lucius, be careful," she said. "Honey, take care of Draco," Lucius replied, kissing her gently on the cheek before stepping out of the tent with resolve. Ethan approached and gently patted his shoulder, startling Lucius. "It's me," Ethan whispered. "I'll follow you invisibly, just as we planned. Don't let your guard down." Lucius nodded slightly, his tension easing. He was surprised by Ethan's ability to approach undetected, and the realization made Ethan seem even more enigmatic. Lucius felt reassured about his decision to betray the Dark Lord. Then he proceeded according to the Death Eater's plan, with Ethan following silently behind. At the camp, they encountered a man in a hood and mask who excitedly reported the capture of a Muggle family. Lucius quickened his pace, and above their heads, 4 figures were suspended in the air, contorted into unnatural shapes by the masked wizards below, as if controlled by invisible strings. Ethan observed the scene, noting 2 of the figures were children. He watched in discomfort as the crowd mocked a woman whose nightgown had slipped, revealing her undergarments. The smallest Muggle child was spun in the air, his head lolling side to side. Despite Ethan's previous experiences, including a trip to Rwanda, the cruelty before him was deeply unsettling. However, he restrained his anger, choosing not to act, but silently noting the identities of the wizards involved. Today was not the day for him to intervene. According to the plan, let's begin, he thought, as the larger force continued to wreak havoc while others executed their specific roles. Ethan moved stealthily, blending into the shadows as he marked each wizard he encountered with magic. Like a tiger stalking its prey, he waited for the perfect moment to strike. Meanwhile, Jaina detected singing from across the camp, accompanied by strange crashing sounds and distant screams. Panic seemed to grip the camp as if a terrible event was unfolding. "Take action now," Miss Proudmoore commanded decisively, prompting everyone to rush out of the tent. In the glow of the still-burning bonfire, Tonks observed people fleeing into the woods, driven by fear of something sinister moving through the camp. This entity emitted a strange light and sounded akin to gunfire, the air filled with jeers, laughter, and drunken shouts, accelerating Tonks's heartbeat and cloaking him in a sense of dread. Suddenly, a bright green light flashed, revealing a massive skeleton composed of countless green, star-like entities. A large python emerged from the skull's mouth, resembling a tongue. As the skull ascended, it shone brightly in the green smoke, forming a terrifying constellation against the night sky, instilling fear in all who saw it. Penelo remained stationed under the iron-gray giant eagle sculpture, her designated observation point. When a familiar silver mist signaled the arrival of a figure next to her, she didn't need to turn her head to know it was Ciri. "You're finally here, Ciri. How did it feel to kiss him in public?" Penelo inquired with a mix of concern and curiosity. Cirilla's calm demeanor faltered as she struggled to respond. That was all because of the crowd's encouragement," she murmured, her cheeks flushing with a rare shyness. "I didn't intend for it to happen. It was just the heat of the moment. Everyone was joking, and I acted impulsively." Penelo chuckled softly, offering a comforting pat on Cirilla's shoulder. "Relax, Ciri. It's not a big deal. Everyone's just excited because you two seem like a good match. Don't overthink it," she reassured her friend. "Thank you, Penelo," Cirilla replied, visibly relieved by her best friend's support. Despite her usual boldness, this was new territory for her. Unseen by Cirilla, a hint of envy flickered in Penello's eyes. Suddenly their badges chimed simultaneously, pulling them from their conversation into a state of alertness. They exchanged serious glances, confirming the message on their badges before vanishing together in a flash of silver mist. The once brightly lit stadium was now shrouded in darkness, adding to the chaos. Dark figures stumbled through the woods, children's cries pierced the night, and anxious voices added to the unease. The camp was in turmoil, with muggles and wizards alike huddled together in fear. Ministry of Magic staff attempted to approach the hooded figures at the center of the disturbance, but faced significant obstacles. The wizards appeared hesitant to use magic, fearing it might cause the nearby muggles to panic, which only heightened the tension at the scene. At this critical juncture, the distinct and rhythmic sound of leather boots clashing with metal echoed from afar, drawing closer rapidly. This drum-like cadence seemed to herald the end of the dark night. Chapter 278. The sudden sound of footsteps caused a commotion among both parties. The organized rhythm of the approaching steps indicated that the newcomers were well coordinated. Both the masked man and the ordinary wizard initially thought these were reinforcements for their adversaries. Observing the situation, some of the more astute masked individuals began to discreetly withdraw. However, their attempts to use apparition to escape were thwarted when they discovered that spatial movement had been unexpectedly restricted in the area. Even the use of portkeys was prohibited. "How can this be?" a masked man exclaimed in disbelief. "An anti-apparition circle shouldn't be able to block portkeys." "That's because you're trapped by a dimensional anchor," a loud young female voice retorted. As the sound of orderly footsteps and the clinking of metal grew louder, it became clear that the newcomers were a force to be reckoned with. The female voice issued a stern command. "In case of emergency, everyone present must lay down their wands, place their hands on their heads, and kneel. Anyone who resists will be treated as a criminal." Looking up, the crowd was confronted by a line of figures clad in full body armor, resembling knights prepared for battle. Their armor shone brightly, covering them from head to toe, with only slivers of blue light visible through the gaps in their helmets, giving them a formidable appearance. Behind these armored figures stood a group of young individuals in black uniforms, wielding wands. They were led by a young woman with striking pink hair, whose uniform, though similar in design, featured a contrasting white color that made her stand out. She held a small circular screen in her hand, resembling a radar oscilloscope. This device, a gift from Ethan, was designed to track a special magical mark he had applied. Now, a large red dot was flashing on the screen, guiding their advance. This assembly of armored figures and uniformed individuals, armed with both cold weapons and wands, moved with precision and unity. Their appearance was starkly different from the disorganized group in black robes, making them an intimidating sight. They were aurors in new uniforms, accompanied by steel golems. Faced with this formidable army, the ordinary wizards complied with the command to kneel, while those in black cloaks and masks hesitated, wands at the ready. "You are," began a masked wizard, presumably the leader, before he was swiftly incapacitated by a spell. The steel golems advanced rapidly, with the aurors following closely. They efficiently subdued any wizards who were disobedient or dared to resist. The division of labor was clear. The golems acted as shields, absorbing incoming spells, while the aurors attacked from a distance, using spells to harass or capture the criminals, pushing them back steadily. The attackers were taken aback by the strength of the armored figures, which resembled the animated knight armor found in Hogwarts corridors. Their dark magic, a source of pride, proved ineffective against the golems. Protected by the golems, the aurors were free to unleash their spells without restraint, putting the attackers at a significant disadvantage. They struggled to penetrate the golem's defenses and fend off the auror's spells, while also avoiding the golem's sword attacks. The sight of a companion being bisected by a sword that effortlessly cleaved through an iron armor curse was a grim reminder of their peril. Meanwhile, a few aurors had activated the fading technique on their uniforms, blending into their surroundings to launch surprise attacks, further complicating the attacker's situation. Subduing the thugs who attempted to flee, the young Aurors demonstrated organization and discipline. Their methods were efficient and merciless, supported by the protection of golems. Their presence left their adversaries powerless. "Penelo, take your team and assist the civilians," Tonks commanded in a cold voice. Following her orders, 5 Aurors detached themselves to aid the injured, muggles and wizards, while the rest pursued the fleeing thugs under Tonks's leadership. Removing their intimidating masks, the remaining Aurors revealed their youthful faces, now adorned with smiles. The lead Auror, a woman with long brown hair, had an elegant beauty. Her smile, warm and inviting, seemed capable of soothing all wounds. In stark contrast to their ferocity in battle, they now appeared as benevolent guardians, treating everyone with patience and kindness. They gently comforted the injured, applied healing spells, distributed invigorating potions, and used communication badges to reunite lost wizards with their families. Reporters in tow captured these heartwarming moments. "Why didn't you let me stay? I'm proficient with healing spells," a robust male Auror with a beard expressed his discontent to Tonks. "Your imposing appearance might intimidate the injured," Tonks replied, her voice laced with playful sarcasm. This exchange elicited laughter among the Aurors, lightening the mood and dispelling the earlier tension. In contrast, the veteran Aurors faced a different reality. Caught unprepared by the sudden chaos, they lacked crucial intelligence and unified communication devices, leaving them isolated and uncertain of the broader situation. Some, relying on instinct and past experiences, rushed to protect known ministry officials or maintain order. It wasn't until the green skulls illuminated the sky that they sprang into action, albeit hindered by their reluctance to use lethal spells, a testament to the long-standing peace they had grown accustomed to. Unlike Tonks's well-coordinated team, these veterans, accustomed to fighting solo or in small groups, found themselves at a disadvantage in the group combat required by this conflict. Without the support of advanced combat aids, like the Iron Golem, they struggled significantly. Kingsley, a seasoned and skilled Auror, initially managed to subdue an opponent through his exceptional abilities. However, his success was short-lived as reinforcements arrived, freeing the captured wizard who quickly returned to the fray. The trio overpowered Kingsley, inflicting new injuries upon him. Amidst the chaos, the wizards Kingsley was protecting also suffered, with one elderly wizard sustaining an arm injury. The bones were broken at odd angles, contorting into a peculiar shape. Her cries of pain pierced the night sky, a sound that was heart-wrenching. The image is a conceptual drawing of Tonks, created by myself. Chapter 279, Ethan's Mission. Ethan's mission to shadow Lucius and mark the thugs had concluded. He had no intention of engaging the enemies directly, so he teleported straight to Cyrilla. The scene that unfolded before Ethan was harrowing. Wizards in black robes were scattered on the ground, rolling in agony as they attempted to extinguish the flames engulfing their bodies. One wizard, in a desperate bid to relieve his pain, had stripped off his burning clothes, revealing not only a deep, penetrating wound, but also extensive burns, large blisters, and patches of skin charred to black. Nearby, a middle-aged witch screamed in torment, her arm frozen into an ice sculpture riddled with cracks, threatening to shatter at any moment. Most horrifying was the sight of a wizard whose face was severely corroded, leaving her eyeball grotesquely exposed. A thug, already defeated and lying on the ground, made a surreptitious move towards his wand. Cyrilla, with a keen eye, noticed this and swiftly struck his back with her sword. As blood spurted, a potent electric current surged through his body, causing uncontrollable convulsions. Ethan arrived just in time to witness Cyrilla's decisive strike. "Don't look at me like that. I controlled the intensity. He won't die," Cyrilla said, noticing Ethan's arrival. She took a half-step back, a guilty expression flashing across her face before she adopted an innocent look. Behind Cyrilla stood an extremely old woman with gray hair and loose teeth who extended her thumb in approval. After Cyrilla's display of force, no thug dared approach them again. "Thank you, girl. In you, I see the grace of those Aurors from my youth," the old woman praised sincerely. However, not everyone viewed Cyrilla's ruthless methods as favorably. Despite this, once it was clear no one could oppose them, Cyrilla proceeded to break the wands of the assailants, and then turned to heal the injured muggles with a gentle smile. Ethan observed the Muggles, noting their tattered and blood-stained clothes, along with their dull, dazed expressions, a clear indication they had suffered under the Cruciatus curse. "Cyrilla, our team needs to support Kingsley Shacklebolt," Ethan said, following her gaze to where Kingsley was being overwhelmed by 3 thugs. "This guy always sides with Moody, criticizing my methods as too dark. I'm curious to see his reaction when I save his life," Cyrilla remarked with a smirk before transforming into a ball of silver mist and reappearing on the battlefield. Her aurors remained behind to tend to the wounded. "Ethan Green?" a low, exotic voice called out. Victor Krum approached Ethan, who looked back in confusion. Despite Krum's awkward gait, he moved quickly. "Green, do you know where Hermione is?" Krum asked directly, his concern for Hermione evident. "She's in a safe place," Ethan replied, sensing a surge of displeasure but quickly adding, "With all due respect, Krum, you and Hermione aren't close enough for you to use her first name. And you kissing that lady in public, what right do you have to judge who Hermione associates with?" Krum retorted, glancing at Penelo beside Ethan. His missing front teeth and accent lent a humorous note to his words. "This has nothing to do with you." Ethan dismissed Krum's comment and hastened his pace towards Kingsley, who was struggling amidst a barrage of spells. Fortunately, Cyrilla's timely intervention with her sword saved Kingsley from a sneak attack. "Chain lightning," Ethan muttered, waving his wand. A bolt of lightning, thick as his arm, shot out from the tip, striking the assailants with precision. Ethan aimed his wand, striking a thug who was in the midst of casting a powerful spell. The thug was instantly electrocuted, twitching uncontrollably and emitting smoke before collapsing to the ground, lifeless. However, the lightning didn't cease there. It continued, passing through his body to hit the second and third wizards. The first thug had acted as a resistor, diminishing the spell's power, so while the subsequent victims weren't killed, they were left foaming at the mouth, writhing in pain on the ground. Seizing the moment, Kingsley, along with 2 of Cyrilla's men, quickly subdued and took them into custody. "Oh, thank you," Kingsley began, attempting to express his gratitude, but Cyrilla dismissed him coldly. "Please step aside. I need to attend to the injured," she said, bypassing Kingsley and offering a gentle smile to an injured old wizard behind him. Her silver sword transformed back into a wand, which she pointed at the man's wounds. They began to heal, but the severe fractures proved challenging for Cyrilla, who admitted her limitations with healing spells. Observing the situation, Ethan stepped forward to assist. He carefully realigned the old wizard's arm and, with a surge of natural power, cast the druid's rejuvenation spell, rapidly mending the fractures. Kingsley, feeling somewhat slighted by their efficiency, voiced his frustration. "Why did you only come now? Do you have to wait until people are injured before you intervene?" Cyrilla, taken aback by the accusation, retorted sharply, "Oh, I thought Mr. Kingsley could handle the situation on his own. After all, you're reputed among the Aurors as the strongest duelist." Ethan was surprised by Cyrilla's biting response, a departure from her usual straightforwardness. Cyrilla continued her sarcasm. "Clearly, you're unable to protect them, or even yourself, and now you're blaming me. Don't you find that ridiculous?" Her words struck a nerve with Kingsley, who struggled to accept such criticism from someone younger. "Humph, you speak as if you did everything right," Kingsley retorted angrily. "You're also an Auror, yet you and the trainees responded so swiftly, clearly well prepared. We received no such news, indicating a conspiracy." Kingsley's gaze fixed on Penelo, searching for any hint of guilt. Despite it being a mere speculation, Cyrilla couldn't deny Kingsley's insight. She and Ethan, along with Jaina, were indeed privy to the incident's details ahead of time. They had chosen not to share this information, instead organizing a group of Aurors loyal to Jaina for secret training aimed at reforming the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. However, Cyrilla wouldn't admit to this openly. "The chaos you're experiencing is due to outdated training methods and a lack of innovation," she countered, glancing at her team. "We rely on advanced equipment and teamwork, prepared for any emergency." She concluded her argument with a declaration that left Kingsley feeling outdated and disconnected. As the young Aurors around them swelled with pride, Cyrilla offered Kingsley a final remark. "It seems you disagree with my perspective. I'll leave the rest to you." After all, aren't you the expert at diplomacy? I'll leave a few people for you. You're injured anyway, so just help the injured here and don't delay our fight, she said, waving her hand. Several young Auror reserves stepped out of the formation. Kingsley's expression darkened, but Penelo didn't linger. She whispered something into her badge and then hurried over to Ethan. Tonks has called for a gathering, Sorella informed Ethan simply. Ethan nodded, then added, "This bald man will definitely share his suspicions with Scrimgeour today." Rufus Scrimgeour is a determined man who, since starting his career, has devoted most of his energy to combating dark wizards. He will surely appreciate our actions tonight. In fact, he's had his disagreements with wizards who support Dumbledore, Sorella explained. Having discussed this matter internally with Jaina Proudmoore, Sorella, as an Auror, was relatively familiar with her direct superiors. Just be mindful of it, Ethan nodded, choosing not to say more. He never paid extra attention to these official intricacies. His role, as he saw it, was to maintain an overview of the overall situation and provide necessary magical support. If he were to concern himself with every detail, what would be the purpose of having so many allies? Chapter 280. As Ethan and his companions swiftly navigated through the camp, they entered a dense forest, eventually reaching a relatively open highland. Deeper within, Ethan immediately noticed Gianna. Her golden hair was neatly arranged in a bun, exuding competence. She wore a dark blue robe adorned with magic runes and star patterns, under which was a simple white double-breasted shirt. The shirt was cinched at the waist with a dragon skin belt, accentuating her figure and highlighting her graceful curves. Adorned with magical jewelry on her chest and wrists, the azure blue gems sparkled, mirroring the depth and brightness of her brown eyes, which radiated wisdom and determination. Gianna, in her formal attire, effortlessly became the center of attention. Beside her stood the Minister of Magic, Fudge, and a wizard who bore the resemblance of an aged lion. They seemed almost like bystanders next to her. This scene was diligently captured by a photographer from The Quibbler. At that moment, the Ministry of Magic's top officials were surveying the battlefield from a distance. The thugs had begun to sense that something was amiss. Despite their efforts to cause chaos and launch attacks in the west, the Aurors were able to pinpoint their locations with remarkable accuracy. Through a systematic encirclement and suppression, the Aurors were gradually corralling the thugs. Now, the unmasked group of 23 Death Eater thugs found themselves facing off against the young Auror reserves, with Nymphadora Tonks leading the charge as their commander. There are too many of these troublemakers. What if we continue to be in a stalemate? Fudge remarked, observing the gathered Death Eaters. He mopped his sweaty forehead with his sleeve, concerned by the overwhelming number of thugs and the blockade formed by the Auror reserves. Without the support of the reliable steel golems, Fudge feared the worst for the situation. Gianna, noticing Ethan and another Auror team's arrival from afar, sighed in relief. Even she harbored doubts about the potential of these young Aurors. The training and reorganization plan for the new generation of Aurors was an unprecedented endeavor. Despite their confidence in the plan, apprehension lingered until tangible results were seen, sprang with their political futures hinging on its success. Gianna refrained from intervening directly. If she did, her use of water and wind and snow elements would steal the spotlight, rendering the Auror reform plan a failure. Ethan possessed the unique ability to support the trainee Aurors discreetly. Gianna nodded at Ethan, signaling that the plan was progressing smoothly. She then voiced her concerns to Fudge. The minister is right. If the Aurors don't let up, winning this battle and maintaining the authority to use magic spells will be challenging. Scrimgeour, overhearing Gianna's comments, looked at her in surprise. He noted a significant shift in Miss Proudmoore's political stance and involvement in recent years, transitioning from neutrality to a more hawkish and proactive role in the legal enforcement department. Scrimgeour welcomed this change, regardless of its underlying reasons. Minister, before the situation escalates, let's temporarily bypass the vote and grant them the authority to use the destructive curse. This way, once we successfully subdue this group of troublemakers, all the saved wizards will support us, Scrimgeour suggested convincingly. Otherwise, the situation will inevitably worsen. If pushed too far, they might resort to drastic measures. If casualties occur under the current circumstances, it could lead to an international incident. Scandal loomed large, pressing the minister into a corner. Scrimgeour's firm words bolstered Fudge's wavering resolve. He nodded, acquiescing to Scrimgeour's suggestion, and promptly issued orders to the Aurors, granting them permission to use lethal spells. Scrimgeour watched as the agitators in the field began to stir, a flicker of satisfaction crossing Jaina's lips. This development was a calculated part of their strategy, now successfully unfolding. Fudge's orders, clear and unequivocal, were swiftly relayed through communication badges to every Auror, young and old alike. The veterans among them, hardened by the era of Voldemort, harbored deep reservations about resorting to dark, destructive magic, fearing it could lead one to succumb to darkness. However, the younger Aurors, unburdened by such experiences, prioritized survival over the moral dilemmas of using dark magic in the heat of battle. Among these younger Aurors were recent graduates from the Erudite Society, including Cyrilla and Penelo. They were versed not only in dark magic but also in arcane spells that required less emotional investment, such as the Avatar Death Curse and Finger of Death, the latter demanding less but posing a higher learning curve. For these well-educated wizards, employing destructive spells without moral qualms was a liberating prospect. Upon receiving the order, the young Aurors were invigorated by the prospect of engaging the enemy unrestrained. They stood ready, wands in hand, as the dimensional anchor spell continued to prevent their foes from escaping via apparition. The encircled agitators grew increasingly desperate. In an organized advance, the young Aurors moved forward, following their rigorous training. Iron Golem, defensive posture, Tonks commanded. The steel golems at the forefront reconfigured their formation. Shield golems locked together, forming an impenetrable wall with their towering shields, while guard golems with kite shields and bucklers protected the flanks, thwarting the encircled mob's attacks. This strategic use of golems as protective barriers allowed the wizards to focus on long-range assaults without direct engagement. Tonks raised her hand, signaling a halt. The steel golems and uniformed Aurors froze. To those in front, you are surrounded. Surrender your wands and comply with the International Anti-Dark Wizarding Act, and your safety will be guaranteed. Resist, and you face certain death, Tonks announced, her voice echoing across the camp, repeated thrice for emphasis. Her words stirred a mix of reactions among the agitators. Some scoffed at the ministry's perceived weakness, threatening violence against Tonks, while others, gripped by fear, complied and surrendered. The majority, however, remained paralyzed by indecision. Tension escalated until a rogue spell from the crowd struck an Auror, plunging the scene into chaos. Screams of panic filled the air as the confrontation spiraled out of control. Spells darted across the sky, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield. The night was alive with the chaos of magic, as dust and debris from shattered stones littered the ground. Broken leaves and branches fluttered through the air, marking the onset of war. Amidst this turmoil, the figure of Gianna stood resolute. I would greatly appreciate your support through custom orders, flowers, monthly votes, comments, and rewards. If you have any votes to spare, kindly direct them my way. Your support is crucial to me. Truly, it means the world.